Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the quarterly meeting of the Tennessee Board of Regents on this chilly winter morning, December 1st, believe it or not. Ready or not, here the holidays come, and I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We have a full agenda this morning, so just as a reminder to our regents, of course, we're being live streamed and the meeting will be archived. And with that, let me ask our General Counsel, Brian Lapps, to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for the regents who are participating remotely and not in the room. This applies to you. If you're here, when I call your name, you can just say here. But in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated 844-108C3, there are two questions that need to be answered by regents for the record if they are participating remotely. First, can you simultaneously hear and speak with others participating in the meeting? And second, are you alone in the room? If the answer to both questions is yes, the regent can simply answer yes to both. Anyone who is not alone should identify any other people present in the room with the regent. Governor Lee. Regent Apple.
Here.
Regent Burdine.
Yes to both and here.
Regent George. Regent Gill.
Here.
Regent Green.
Here.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Here.
Regent House. Regent Lee.
Here, yes to both.
Regent Long. Regent Powers.
Here.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Here.
Commissioner Schwinn. Regent Shelton.
Here.
Regent Varlin.
Here.
Regent Wamp.
Here.
And Regent White.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum and your board is assembled.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And as you noticed, Regent Lee and Burdine are joining us today by phone. Are you on screen somewhere or are you just on the phone?
Just phone.
Just phone. Okay, that'll do. Thank you for chiming in there. Regent Long, our student regent, has unfortunately had a flat tire this morning on his way here. So hopefully he's getting that remedied quickly and will join us a little later. Not a good way to start the day. We will move directly then into our agenda. You have received our minutes from September 23, our regular quarterly board meeting, and our October 31 special called board meeting. Does anyone have any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, we now, of course, have a track record of unanimously adopting certain requests given their non-controversial and routine nature, such as these meeting minutes. I would propose that these items be adopted by unanimous consent, but of course, if any member of the board feel free to object, in which case we will have a roll call vote. Is there any objection to taking these two sets of minutes and adopting them by unanimous consent? Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. Thank you very much. Chancellor, as usual, you are up with your report of interim action.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The interim action report was included in the materials made available to all board members prior to our meeting today. This report constitutes a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Any questions for the Chancellor on the interim action report? If not, just as we did on the minutes, I would propose that we take those in a similar fashion and adopt them by unanimous consent. Any objection? If so, we'll have a roll call vote. All right. Hearing none, the report of interim action from the Chancellor is adopted by unanimous consent. We now turn to the report of the committees. And Regent Burdine, you are up first with approval of the minutes from your audit committee on November 15.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and good morning, everyone. I apologize for not being present today and missing your smiling faces. The Audit Committee met in regular session on November the 15th, 2022 to review and recommend approval of the following items. Number one, Comptroller's Office, external reviews and internal audit reports. Number two, system-wide internal audit updates. Number 3, annual audits and expense for the Chancellor and Presidents for fiscal year 2022. Number 4, fiscal year 2023 internal audit plan revisions. Number 5, salaries and staffing for the Office of System-Wide Internal Audit. And number 6, salaries and budgets for internal auditors. As committee chair, I move the board approve the report of the November 15, 2022 meeting of the audit committee as presented. And this does require a roll call vote.
Thank you, Regent Burdine. We have a motion from the committee chair. On behalf of the committee, do we have a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Lou, and Yolanda, I guess. We have chimed in about the same time there. Any further comments or discussion on the work of the audit committee last month? Hearing none, Brian, would you once again call the roll?
Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent Long. Sorry, he's not here yet. Regent Powers,
Aye.
Regent Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Here? Yes, aye. Sorry.
Regent Wamp,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Brian, I might not have been listening very well. I know Regent Long's not here, but did we call Regent Lee?
He's non-voting.
Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you as our newest faculty regent. Thank you very much. You'd think after all these years I might know this by now, but anyway. Oh, thank you, sir. Oh, Regent Green, we are coming your way with approval of your minutes from a special called meeting of personnel.
Sounds good. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Personnel and Compensation Committee met in a special called session on November 15th to review and recommend approval of the following items: faculty emeritus, institution compensation proposals. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of November 15th with our special called meeting of the Committee of Personnel and Compensation as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion from Regent Green. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Regent White, any question or discussion on the minutes from Personnel and Comp Committee meeting? Hearing none, once again, a roll call vote.
Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Regent Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wamp,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Regent Varlin, I want to go out of order here very slightly to accommodate a travel schedule with your permission. Is that okay? All right. Before we move to the Regents Award presentation, I want to go to one of our informational reporting items and call on Vice Chancellor Jothany Reed for a special presentation this morning. Let me just mention, and we'll get into this a little bit later, one of the things we heard in the recent board assessment, and this has even come up in some discussions as well, is that we want to hear more from our local school systems about the exciting things that we're doing in partnership with them. So today this is a perfect fit, and I know our guests today had some complicated travel schedules, so first of all, we're grateful to them for coming to join us, and second of all, the floor is yours, so let's kick this off and be timely for everybody.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Titans, and members of the board. Academic Affairs is pleased to highlight for you one of our most innovative dual enrollment partnerships with an emphasis on you hearing directly from our Director of Schools as a partner and our college presidents. Today, we're highlighting the Clarksville-Montgomery County partnership with Nashville State as well as with TCAT Dixon. At this time, you will hear from Dr. Shauna Jackson, President of Nashville State, Dr. Rita Summers, President of TCAT Dixon, and our guest, Dr. Jean Luna Vetter, Director of Schools for Clarksville-Montgomery County School Systems.
Well, good morning. Vice Chair Reynolds, I appreciate your graciousness in allowing us to present earlier in the agenda. Chancellor Tidings and Dr. Reed, thank you for the opportunity to share with the board two of several innovative partnerships taking place in Nashville State service area that are intentionally focused on increasing student success and workforce development. Nashville State is committed to redesigning how we deliver education and training so that it works better for students and employers. I know we cannot do this important work alone. It will take partnerships and resources. I am joined today by two amazing and inspirational leaders, Dr. Luna Vetter, who is the director of Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools, and President Arita Summers, to highlight just two of many partnerships taking place in Clarksville, Montgomery County: the Teacher Residency Program and Greater Together. Please click slide. While Nashville State and others are involved in the Grow Your Own Teacher Program, the Teacher Residency Program is the first federally registered apprenticeship program for teaching in the country.
What?
These pictures you see are from the Fall Apprenticeship Signing Day. And this event, and Dr. Luna Vetter was with me, was filled with hope for our future educators. Next slide. At no cost to students, the program began in 2019, and Nashville State joined in 21 to reduce cost and strengthen supports for students. Students earn the AST in K-5 from Nashville State and the BS in Education from Austin Peay, and it's an accelerated cohort program for 3 years to earn your bachelor's degree, while they are working full-time during the day as teacher aides. In the fall of 21, there's some highlights up there you can see. Nashville State's AST cohort had an average GPA of 3.59. We had several 4.0 students, and we are planning to add a middle school track next fall. Dr. Luna Vetter will now share more about the impact on the Teacher Residency Program and Greater Together, and then President Summers will also speak about Greater Together. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to talk about the partnerships that we have with Clarksville Montgomery, as well as our partners. When we talk about the Teacher Residency Program, I'm going to go back to the why and why this started. It goes back several years in the county, and it was when I was at Montgomery County as a director of high schools, we were having a diversity issue. We were not seeing the number of diverse candidates. This goes back a little bit before we had the teacher shortage. Roll forward a few years, we are now in a place that if we had not started this work, we would be in a dire situation filling teacher vacancies. This partnership with Teacher Residency and with Nashville State, I just call it a common sense approach. We started with Austin Peay, and that's a fabulous partnership, and it remains a fabulous partnership. But why not involve more partners and talk about filling some core content classes with Nashville State? It just makes sense as far as partnerships, as well as the economical advantage to the district when you're talking about funding this for sustainability purposes. The Dr. Jackson and Nashville State have been fabulous partners to get this work started, as well as continue and make it make sense for our teacher residents. When you go into the classrooms, we already have some of these individuals. This is the first year that they are becoming teachers. You go into these classrooms and think traditionally, you have 12 weeks of student teaching. These are candidates who for 3 years are immersed in the classrooms with quality teachers. And when you walk into these first-year teachers' classrooms, it's like walking into someone with 5 years of experience. You can tell a huge impact. So that has been so beneficial. We also, when we talk about diversity of candidates, we have increased our diversity of teachers by 4% just through this program. So those benefits alone are huge. I'm going to also talk about the Greater Together partnership. I could go on for days about this. This is a partnership, obviously, both with our TCAT and with Nashville State Community College and with Austin Peay. The idea is we have kids, and yes, we are a K-12 system, but I feel very strongly that we are not doing our jobs if we graduate students who have no plans for either post-secondary, a certificate, or have a high-quality job lined up. So the partnership has allowed us, again, common sense approach. There is no reason why these institutions need to compete for our students. We have plenty of students, and trying to find the right fit for the right student. So we do a few things. This partnership has been so advantageous, and Dr. Summers is going to talk some about that data and the dashboard and some of those partnerships. But one of the big things that we do is at the start of the fall this year, we call them I Can letters to every student who is a senior in high school. It goes home to their parents, because if we gave them to the kids, they wouldn't get home. And it goes home to the parents, and it says, your student can go on to a post-secondary. It doesn't necessarily mean 4-year. It doesn't necessarily mean a 2-year community college. It may be TCAT. We want to find the right fit for your student. But it is signed not only by the school system, but also the presidents of these institutions to show the collaboration and partnership. We can find a spot for you, and we will have a spot for you lined up when you leave. The other huge part of this that, again, common sense, but none of us thought to do, if a student applies for Austin Peay State University and for whatever reason they don't meet the qualifications and they are denied, typically that is just heartbreaking for kids, and they're like, I have no other options. Those students, through the memorandum of understanding and that data sharing, now we have permission that Austin Peay shares that information with Nashville State, who can then follow up and say, hey, we heard this didn't work out, but what about coming to us? We have options that can get you down the path you want. So that's just a few of the advantages that we've seen at the school system, in addition to obviously being just amazing partners and people. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Arita Summers to talk to you more about the data and the dashboard.
Good morning, and thank you to my counterparts. It is an awesome opportunity to be a partner in the Greater Together project. This partnership has only served to strengthen the engagement that we each already had. And we have noticed to date that we have achieved far more than we ever intended to with our initial goals. This project is rooted in data that allows us to support individual students, because as we look at the information through our partnership with Tennessee Achieves, we're able to dial down to each individual student. We know them by name, and we know what their plans are. More importantly, we know where their plans aren't. If they have not made plans for post-secondary, then we can go directly to that individual and provide supports to help them choose a post-secondary option. Once they have made their choices, then we go in and we continue to follow them to ensure that they persist on through to completion. Our work is occurring monthly through all team meetings, and from that, I would say probably we'll have about 15 people on the call. So there are multiple departments from each of the institutions that come together along with our partners at Tennessee Achieves and SCORE. What we are doing in these meetings is fourfold. First, we are sharing data dashboards. Within this data dashboard, we are tracking things such as promise applications, FAFSA applications, college applications. From there, we go on to ensure that the students actually enrolled in the college of choice. And from there, we track first term to second term persistence to ensure that they are progressing as planned. Now, One of the things that we have really truly benefited from is something called summer melt, and becoming aware of when a student has fallen into this unfortunate category. Summer melt is when a student has applied to attend a particular college, but then not actually enrolled. Because we know these students by name and we know where they were intending to go, we can go back to that individual and find out what was it that prevented you from materializing your intentions to enroll. From there, we go into goal setting. We are not just looking at the individual students, but now we're looking at one another. Iron sharpens iron. And so together we set goals. What is our summer melt rate going to be this year? How can we improve on that and lower that percentage? How can we increase persistence and attainment by working with one another? Number 3, we talk about targeted student supports. How can we work with one another to increase with ideas and sharing what's worked for one another so that we each attain higher percentages? And finally, we work together in these meetings for timely intervention. I say timely because there are things such as Tennessee Promise enrollments that do have very definitive timelines involved in them. So together, we work with SCORE, the State Collaborative on Reforming Education, and their role in this was serving as a liaison and providing planning support that continues to this day, and they are in these monthly meetings. Secondly, we could not do this work without Tennessee Achieves, who developed a custom designed data dashboard that collects the data on the Clarksville-Montgomery County students and then helps to track where they indicated that they intended to go to school. This enables each of the partner colleges to reach out to those students well in advance of the fall enrollment to say, we're glad you're here. We can design special orientation events just for these students, which we did this past year, and it was an anti-summer melt event. It was something that we put together because we wanted to make sure that they were reached personally and individually based on our Greater Together efforts. Since the program's inception, we have been able to assess and address additional needs and been able to come up with many more ideas that never were intended but have been a positive benefit based on our monthly meetings. So at this time, on behalf of Clarksville-Montgomery County Schools and Nashville State Community College, we would like to provide an opportunity for you to ask each of us any questions that you might have about this initiative. Yes,
How
ma'am.
do we duplicate this? That's just blowing my mind.
It has been very rewarding, and we have had the opportunity recently to present this both through SCORE and through some other Department of Education initiatives. I think we have made at least 3 road trips to share this out, and everybody's asking that question. Clearly, it does have the opportunity to be replicated statewide. I can speak only on behalf of TCAT Dixon. While I cannot see the data from Tennessee Achieves for the other 6 counties that I serve with dual enrollment, because there's not an MOU in place to do that, we have created our own data dashboard, and we're now looking at every dual enrollment student individually. But we have that barrier of I can't see if they've applied with us. I can only see our dual enrollment students. So there are other seniors that may be interested in Dixon, but I can't see that yet. So I don't know who might become a summer melt casualty. Because you have to have that MOU in place to attain that data that is sitting in Tennessee Achieves warehouse. But we are using the same model, but it clearly could, with an MOU, help every college achieve more.
And I just wanted to add, excuse me, this actually started with Metro Public Schools in Nashville State. We have a Better Together partnership, and SCORE was involved in that. And we thought, where's the next place? And I said, Clarksville Montgomery Schools. And so they took that on and have been facilitating this. So we have something very similar with Nashville State, and we'll be bringing in TCAT Nashville to the Better Together partnership, but it's the same data dashboard where we're constantly talking. There's some fundamental things that we're working together on. It's really making a difference. We're seeing that even in our fall data with dual enrollment and with first-time students. So it can be replicated.
Regent Powers.
Thank you. This may be a naive question and probably telling off what I don't know, but I've never heard the phrase summer melt before, so thank you for educating me on that. Is there value to possibly starting earlier? So I know everybody offers summer school programs, even if it's one course, so that that lag of 3 months doesn't happen where we lose these students potentially?
I think there's many of the schools in the system working on this, and I know even during COVID, there were many opportunities to start earlier. Nashville State personally has a program for our Nashville grad students to start earlier by taking the first year experience course. So I think this is well known in our system with our institutions, and there's been some great innovative things. I can remember during COVID, a lot of the TCATs were doing things to get students to start earlier.
Thank you.
I would also add that because Tennessee Achieves is a partner, they do have a summer bridge program, and we're able to connect and work with them as well to get those students in if that's what they need to do.
Thank you so much.
I have one more. Oh, no, just ask one. So Nashville, how many schools does Nashville have involved in this?
So right now, we serve 7 counties. So the only 2 partnerships like this is in Davidson County with Metro Public Schools, and then the Greater Together partnership you just heard about. So we're only doing this in 2 systems
But do you know how many schools are involved?
Oh, there's 16 high schools in Metro Nashville.
Okay.
7 in Montgomery County.
All right. I was just thinking, because a smaller school system I can see, but some of these big ones, trying to convince them to make change. Thank you.
Regent Green.
I've got a couple questions. I may have to follow up with y'all after this because this is just so exciting, and I love the proactivity in trying to change it before just being reactive and saying, well, what do we do afterwards? But going back to the teacher program, the apprenticeship program that you have, does that also include preschool teachers? Because we know that if we can get to those kids as early as possible and put the right type of great teachers instead of just daycare teachers, but really preschool teachers can make a big difference with the kids in their progression.
So the program we have right now is primarily elementary education. There's a few reasons for that. Quite frankly, the elementary teachers typically get paid more, and so it's setting them on a path. And we also have a huge need. However, we have, as you see, we're starting in that middle school space, and we're really also focusing on middle school and high school science math. I don't disagree that pre-K is a valuable spot as well, but essentially we have to hit these K-12 spots before we, I think, move on to anything else right now.
Got it. And the next question is, the summer melt, as Nisha was mentioning, is super important. But I've also been aware that the first year and the second year makes a huge difference too. If a child decides to come back for that second year, they're on track to go ahead and finishing. Have y'all thought about expanding the program and still, being in touch with those kids that you would have connected with in the beginning to say, all right, it's sophomore year, let's keep going?
Yes, that's a part of our first year experience work. We know how important the fall semester and spring semester is. So that's what's so great about Greater Together. This is the school director saying, it's not just important to me that I graduated them, it's that they went somewhere and that they're successful. So we're staying in communication about what's happening and transpiring with students. And as this data dashboard becomes more robust, we'll be able to say, hey, these are the students that are doing really well in this, and they went to this high school, something great is happening over here. This may be students that have been struggling in a particular subject in a particular high school. We're going to get to that kind of granular level so we can partner together to make sure that any student that leaves Clarksville Montgomery High School is ready, college ready or career ready. So we will continue to track the students. That's the beauty of the system. And the same thing is happening in Davidson County.
Yep, and just shout out to my Murfreesboro, Rutherford County folks. Let's go.
I love it. Regent Gill.
Thank you. Yeah, talk to us just a second about the Tennessee Achieves program. You've talked about the MOUs. Where is their data originating from that we can't get a hold of? And just tell me generally how that process is working, because I went and tried to find that data in my first 2 years here, and just take me outside and beat me. It's just not worth it. So anyway, talk about that.
So they have been a critical partner in this work, because a high school student who has not yet applied to either of our institutions will fill out that Tennessee Promise application. So that starts our understanding that there's a student out there who's filled out the application who selected Nashville State or TCAT Dixon. And they're able to give us that information. Hey, from this particular high school, you have 50 students that have completed a Tennessee Promise application and said that they want to go to one of our institutions. So they really were the originators of the dashboard. It couldn't be created without them. So we're careful not to share individual student names. Like, that's when we get a little bit closer. They've actually applied to us. They become our, they're in our pipeline then. So I don't get specific names. I get numbers. But because we have an MOU with Clarksville Montgomery County Schools, I'm still working on the MOU with Davidson County, we're able to share information more freely. But they're a critical partner, and they have their own system for which they're tracking to know, applied, did they do the FAFSA, did they do community service, like they're tracking them through the whole part. And we could say, hey, they've applied, they've actually done orientation with Nashville State, hey, they've enrolled in Nashville State. So we're working on a way to really talk to one another so we can track them individually.
But does any of this data originate from the P20 program? Do you know?
All of the
Tennessee
data,
Achieves?
all of the data is coming from Tennessee Achieves.
From Tennessee Achieves, but where are they getting it? Is my question. Are they
From
getting
the applications where the
just
students.
from the applications that come to them? They're not going back to the P20 program, because we
Correct.
tried to do that.
Correct.
And
So all of the
Fort
data.
Knox is not as secure as that fiefdom, right? That's just very frustrating.
Well, the MOU was a big hurdle, and it took about 9 months to navigate through that MOU status, and we appreciate Council Lapps and his team for helping us to navigate that. But once we have that from the community college and the TCAT side, we know what we need to do and what the relationship with Tennessee Achieves and their security measures has to be. And then with SCORE, and they've already met those standards. So now, really the only barrier to moving this forward to any other replication would be on that county level, whether or not they're willing to accept those TBR MOU standards, the SCORE standards, and the Tennessee Achieves. And if they're willing to sign on to a similar memo, then we can move forward with that. From there, the initiative is really going to be the individual support of those community colleges and TCATs, and whether or not they buy in, if that school system buys in, how collegial they're going to be with one another. But, quite honestly, we look forward to it, and it's a time where I have never been able to reach out and know who was interested in us. We only could see who had actually applied. And when you're talking about Tennessee Achieves, they have, the pulse on every student in their arena, with the exception of maybe those who are going through, I believe, the Ayers Foundation or some of the others. So this might be a little different in those counties, but certainly is something that is able to be worked through, in my understanding.
One last question. Is President Jackson, or rather President Hollywood, going to be starring in any ads for Greater Together as you go down the road?
Yes. Maybe. It was a
Maybe.
great
Okay.
commercial. Thank you.
I have one quick question for Dr. Luna Vetter, and I know your time is short. Given the growth in Clarksville, which you and I talked about a moment ago, I assume you're not worried about an enrollment cliff. To the contrary, you're probably thinking of where do we put everybody in the years to come.
Correct. So we are actually already slated to open another high school next year. Kirkwood High School will open in the fall. I'm working on the joint land with County Commission, identifying future locations. We are averaging, over the last 30 years, about 678 new students a year, but the last 5 years, it's closer to 1,000 students every year. So we're hitting almost, right now we're at almost 39,000 students in the county.
That's great. Well, and I know Chancellor has mentioned to me in the past when you were at the Department of Education, what a huge help you were to us there, so thank you. But I think I'm really glad you're back in Clarksville and doing exactly what you're doing, so thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, exciting news all around. Keep us posted. Dr. Reed?
Yes, thank you, Board and Region Reynolds, for letting us share that. Academic Affairs will be periodically bringing models like this in future board meetings because we want you to hear from our partners and really the innovations of our presidents to ensure student success across the state. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that put a spring in everybody's step this morning, so good news all around. Regent Varlin, bring us some more good news. We've had the privilege of honoring some significant folks in the last few months.
We have, and the first one I'm going to talk about are personal friends of mine that I just can't say enough about. The Tennessee Board of Regents Award for Excellence in Philanthropy is a unique designation. For 20 years, TBR has been honoring philanthropists and partners who donate their time, resources, and finances in TBR institutions through these awards. Today, we acknowledge recipients honored during presentations at 2 different colleges, and our first award was presented to Pat and David Coffey, nominated by President Chris Whaley at Roane State Community College. I was honored to present this award to Mr. and Mrs. Coffey during a ceremony on November 1st at Roane State's Oak Ridge campus. He is just an amazing man and has done so much for this community. The Coffeys believe in higher education and work for more than 20 years to realize their dream of a branch of Roane State in Oak Ridge. David led the fundraising efforts for a new campus, and he and Pat personally gave the largest non-corporate donation to the building and to the build and equip Oak Ridge campus. For their generosity and leadership, the library was named in their honor. The fundraising committee that David co-chaired raised over $4 million to assist in constructing the facility and another $1 million to equip the building. In 1999, David and Pat saw their dream of an Oak Ridge campus become a reality when the entire community celebrated the opening of the facility. They personally contributed $500,000 to establish an endowment with the Roane State Foundation to benefit the campus permanently in honor of then President Dr. Sherry Hoppy. The endowment has received additional contributions and is now at $1 million. Annual earnings support areas of greatest needs at this Oak Ridge campus. I've skimmed this already and know it doesn't say this, but David Coffey also served in the legislature, so if any of you, that name might be familiar. He's really good friends with Randy McNally, and the two of them have done amazing work for this community. In 2004, as the Oak Ridge branch grew in students and programs, the Coffeys supported the capital campaign of the new Gary Goff, Health Sciences and Technology building with a lead gift of $500,000. Their generous total today exceeds $1.5 million, and their ongoing goodwill, advocacy, and leadership on behalf of both the college and the foundation has garnered much more support and opportunity for Roane State Community College over the years. David and Pat's support extends beyond the Roane State facilities. Through the East Tennessee Foundation, in memory of their son, they provide scholarships every year to deserving Roane State and Pellissippi State Community College students. They're also very engaged with their alma mater, King University. On behalf of the Board of Regents, we are proud to recognize Pat and David Coffey with the highest honor of excellence in philanthropy. And at this time, I want to invite the Roanoke State Community College President, Dr. Chris Whaley, to the podium for any additional comments.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, Chancellor, Regent Varlin, members of the board. Words will fail me a little bit in trying to convey just how much David and Pat Coffey mean to Roanoke State and to the region, but I'll try very briefly. All of us have generous, very generous donors who provide the access and success pathway for our students to be able to attend and succeed. But then every once in a while you have folks that you know you can go to with a critical need, a specific student need, something that you don't know how you're going to get it funded any other way. Pat and David are that for us. Whatever the need is, they always either meet it themselves or get behind a campaign to raise the funds. And so they are family to us, very special folks. If I talk about them much longer, I'll probably get a little choked up because they're just that special. But thank you so much on behalf of all of us at Roanoke State Community College for honoring them in this very deserving way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Whaler. And I'll point out that David Coffey just celebrated his 90th birthday the week of that November when we recognize them. But he still, I go to a meeting in Oak Ridge as often as I can on Friday mornings. It starts at 7:30, and it's probably anybody who's involved in the National Lab, any of their contractors. It's the who's who of all of that. He is there every week. 90 years old, obviously retired. He's there every week. He's just amazing, just where he is, what he does. So just very special man. Okay, so our second presentation was awarded to the McMinn County Economic Development Agency, the City of Athens, and the McMinn County Government, a truly unique partnership with Cleveland State Community College. The award was presented to all three groups by Tom White, Regent Tom White, on November 1st at the McMinn Higher Education Center. This joint award is reflective of the special collaboration that existed between these three agencies in working with the state of Tennessee, the Board of Regents, and the University of Tennessee to support creation of the McMinn Higher Education Center in Athens. They've got me front and back here, so I'm not used to that. Completed in 2021, the center is now fully operational as an educational and workforce development engine in that region. Each of those agencies provided significant resources towards the establishment of the McMinn Higher Education Center facility, totaling approximately 10% of the $17.5 million cost. McMinn Economic Development Agency donated land value at $244,000. The City of Athens contributed $500,000 toward the local required match, and McMinn County Government contributed $1 million for the local match. The McMinn Higher Education Center would not exist without the efforts and contributions of these agencies. On behalf of the Tennessee Board of Regents, we are proud to recognize the McMinn County Economic Development Agency, the City of Athens, and the McMinn County Government with the highest honor of excellence in philanthropy. Now, Ty Stone is not in person. I think, is she on the phone? Okay. Hey, Dr. Stone, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Would you like to make any comments?
Absolutely. First, I want to thank the members of the board and Chancellor Tidings for giving us this opportunity to do this wonderful, to celebrate this wonderful partnership. And I do apologize for not being there, but I'm a little under the weather. One of the things that I can say about this community is, and the way this award happened, is this community really is about partnerships, collaborations, and serving our community, and finding opportunities to do that. So when this award came to be, and this was a nomination that had been submitted by Dr. Bill Seymour before he retired, it was really about trying to celebrate that collaboration that we have and giving us the ability to create a higher education facility in McMinn County that helps us better serve our larger community in this region. And as Regent Barland said, this is an education and economic driver in our community. These community-minded individuals were instrumental in creating the vision, developing the project, and contributing the financial resources to make this happen. And I've been there in person and seen the results of that with the partnership that we have with Cleveland State, TCAT Athens, and the University of Tennessee Agricultural Extension that allows us to serve now hundreds of students a year. So we are just thankful for their partnership. We're thankful for their support. And we're also thankful for Regent White, who was able to come and provide them these absolutely beautiful, I mean, the awards themselves were beautiful. So we're just thankful for that opportunity to have our friends together to help us celebrate this momentous occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stone, President Stone. Vice Chair Reynolds, I think that completes and concludes the Excellence in Philanthropy report. Thank you.
Excellence indeed. Thank you very much. Regent White, do you want to add anything since you were able to go to, no? Okay.
No, it's just a lovely drive up to the road to Athens and a great event, and I appreciate Dr. Stone organizing such a fine event.
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time
Proud
to do
Chair
that.
Reynolds,
to be there.
Yes, sir.
A point of clarification. Was it the facility that was absolutely beautiful, or was it Tom? I thought she was talking about Tom individually.
Actually, both.
Both.
What am I going to do with you? I don't know.
I thought she was talking about Tom.
And Miss Emily, he gave you an idea. He said you could take him outside and beat him.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Exactly, exactly. Oh, me. Thank you all. So Regent Barland, thank you, Regent White. And to Dr. Stone, hope you're feeling better. And to Dr. Whaley, thank you for your kind comments. The coffees are pretty special indeed. So, Chancellor, you are up. What do you need to tell us this morning?
I have so much to tell y'all this morning. I'd like to start with actually congratulating Mariah. As you are all aware, baby Grace was born a little bit earlier than anticipated, but the great news is she was able to go home the day after Thanksgiving. So they are home, everyone is doing well, and we anticipate her being back with us for our March meeting. So best congratulations to Mariah and her entire family. Beautiful little baby. But with that, it left a lot of work on the shoulders of many at TBR to pull together this meeting, and I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank Mary Ann, Kate, Carol, Teresa, Karen, and LaDonna for all that they did to make the meeting as seamless and as smooth as possible. So thank you so much to each one of you, and we owe you a great debt of gratitude for all that y'all have done. So thank you for that.
Let me just say, Mary Lou emailed me at 2:26 a.m. the other morning. I, of course, didn't see it until much later, but that's the kind of work that's gone into this. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann. I don't hear from Mary Lou at 2:26 in the morning, but I did hear from Mary Ann. So thank you.
And then a couple of updates that I have for the board to begin with. You heard in September about our very optimistic dual enrollment numbers and how excited we were about the growth there. And as you saw from the data presented, we are continuing to have an uptick in enrollment. 4 of our community colleges were up, all of our technical colleges were up. But I wanted to let you know today that we have real reason to be optimistic because THEC at their meeting announced that promise applications are up 5% over the last 2 years, back to pre-pandemic levels. So I just wanted to make sure all of you heard that note today, that we are anxiously anticipating great news for fall. So we look forward to those matriculating into applicants at our college. I'd also like to give you a quick update on 2 of our searches. The search criteria for TCAP Memphis was approved at a special call board meeting on October 31st, following Dr. Roland Rayner's retirement announcement. Vice Chair Reynolds is serving as chair for the search committee, with Regents George, Lee, and Powers agreeing to help with that search as well. The committee will begin reviewing applicants after the first of the year, And Dr. Jeff Sisk has agreed to go and be our interim president there. He's going to have a new title that is permanent interim because he will have finished his interim position at Murfreesboro and is going to transition over to our interim position at Memphis for us until we're able to get the new president on board, which we anticipate will be by July 1st. So thank you, Jeff, for doing triple duty for us for a while. And then with our TCAT Livingston search, President Cliff Whiteman has graciously agreed to be our interim president there until we can get that search coordinated and begin. So Cliff, thank you for agreeing to step in on that position as well. I have now a special presentation that I'd like to make to you regarding the Chancellor's military affairs and what we've been doing with military affairs. I'm honored to report briefly on some of the activities that have been going on our campuses. Our colleges are strengthened by the presence of veterans and active duty personnel. They bring a unique experience and a perspective that are extremely important part of a broad diversity of people and background that we have on our campuses that truly benefit everyone in the college community. Veterans are also role models for perseverance in pursuing their education. This is the third year of our Chancellor's Commendation for Military Veterans program. We established the commendation to recognize and honor veterans on our campuses as part of their Veterans Day observances. The presidents nominate a veteran or an active duty service member. The nominee can be a student, faculty, or staff member, or an alumnus who plays an active role in the life of the college or the community. The presidents consider characteristics of honor, courage, commitment, integrity, respect, and sacrifice, and how the nominee embodies the values of our system, such as a commitment to student success, service to campus and community, and academic excellence. The commendation is awarded in the form of a specifically designed challenge coin, which has a long tradition in all military branches. They're typically awarded by commanders in recognition of special achievement, excellence, hard work, unit pride, and respect. They are highly valued by the recipients. And I'm pleased to report that last month, 39 honorees of the Chancellor's Commendation were recognized, one at each of our colleges. They were 14 students, 14 faculty members, and 11 college staff members. 18 of these individuals served in the Army, 8 in the Marine Corps, 8 in the Navy, 3 in the Air Force, 1 in the Coast Guard, and 1 in the National Guard. The presidents presented the awards as part of their Veterans Day activities, which received considerable media attention across the state. As just one of the many excellent examples, President Torrance presented the commendation to Motlow student Jamie Roper, a Marine Corps corporal who served as a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense specialist. Corporal Roper said she always wanted to be part of something larger than herself and to become a specialist in a field that helps protect her fellow Marines and her fellow Americans. She said she chose Motlow for the quality and affordability of the education. She will graduate this spring and wants to continue her service by becoming a Veterans Affairs counselor, continuing to help her fellow veterans succeed. And you can see on the video several pictures of where the presidents were presenting those coins. I also want to take a moment to talk about our vets campuses. It gives me great pleasure to report that this Veterans Day, we celebrated the fact that all 13 of our community colleges are now certified as vet campuses, plus 2 of our technical colleges, TCAT Chattanooga and TCAT Dixon, have now become certified. The Vets Campus designation and certification was established by the Tennessee General Assembly as part of the Veterans Education Transition Support Vets Act in 2014. The statute sets out a rigorous set of requirements that colleges and universities must meet to earn this certification. The Tennessee Higher Education Commission, THEC, administers the program, verifying that the requirements are met and awarding the certifications. Some of the requirements for certification include mentoring and support programs for student veterans, special orientation programs to help transition from military service to college, a process for assessing prior learning experience that grants academic credit to veterans for applicable training and experience attained through their military service, and annual surveys of student veterans determining their needs, issues, and their suggestions. What our colleges have done is to prioritize outreach to the veterans, to allocate resources for their successful transition, and to successfully deliver services that create a supportive environment where student veterans can prosper while pursuing their education. Also, I'm pleased to report that we have appointed a new Director of Veteran Enrollment and Benefits at the System Office, Regina Watkins. And Regina, are you with us today? Regina, would you just be recognized so everybody knows who our Veterans Director is? We're glad to have you on board. She is working with all of the colleges in support of their work administering veterans' educational benefits. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, including more than 20 years of administrative and operational leadership at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University's campus at Fort Campbell. She earned a bachelor's degree at Lambeth University, a master's of public administration from Murray State University, and a Master of Science in Project Management from Embry-Riddle. And she is currently working toward a doctorate in organizational leadership at North Central University in San Diego. We're so proud to have you with us. In conclusion, I am proud of all of the work and the activities that are happening on our campus in support of our veterans. Since the Chancellor's Commendation began in 2020, we have awarded a total of 110 commendations across our system. But today it is my true privilege to make it 111. I said that earning vet certification requires commitment and hard work on our campuses. It also required a lot of commitment and hard work by a member of our System Office staff. In addition to your leadership as board members in prioritizing veterans education, much of the progress in our service to veterans has occurred under the leadership of a TBR staff member who has led our work on all of these programs. More than 3 years ago, I asked Dr. Robert Dean to take on the role of System-Wide Veterans Service Coordinator in addition to the multitude of millions of other tasks that he had on his plate. It was a new position for our system office, but he readily agreed to serve in addition to all of his other work as an academic vice chancellor. Dr. Dean serves as a source of information for students, families, and campuses regarding support for veterans. He serves as TBR's liaison on Veterans Affairs with other state and federal agencies and other Tennessee colleges and universities. He works with military institutions like Fort Campbell and their transition assistance officers and makes recommendations on how programs for veterans can be improved. Dr. Dean and Lynn Drew in his office, who I do have to also mention, set up the commendation program and have worked with the presidents on the nomination process over the last 3 years. It was also his idea to present the challenge coin. Dr. Dean is a proud United States Marine. As the son of a career Navy officer, he enlisted in the Marine Corps immediately after high school and served 6 years as a weapons technician. Dr. Dan began his TBR career at Chattanooga State, where he and Dr. Kim McCormick created a little something called SAILS program 10 years ago. As you know, SAILS has now expanded statewide and has helped thousands of underrepresented, underprepared students to learn the math skills that they need for college success. He epitomizes the excellence and commitment and service that the Chancellor's Commendation was designed to recognize and honor. And so at this time, it gives me great pleasure to present to Dr. Dean his first Chancellor's Commendation for Military Services to a member of our system office. Dr. Dean, would you please come forward and accept? Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to introduce to you Dr. Russ Deaton, who is going to come to the podium and present an excerpt on our TBR oral history project.
Good morning,
Hey,
Vice Chair
Chancellor.
Reynolds.
Oh, yes.
Chancellor, can I say one thing to the Marine?
Yes, please.
Semper Fidelis, Marine.
Yay.
Hoorah, thanks.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Reynolds, Dr. Tidings, members of the board, it's a tough act to follow, but I will do my best to move us along here. And if it's okay, I may take a diversion for a moment before the oral history project to give you a preview of coming attractions for the next board meeting at Dr. Tidings' request. A couple of items that this board is engaged with heavily over the years will be front and center on the agenda in the March board meeting. One of which will be an update on the TBR strategic plan, which this board passed a year ago, a very living, breathing, flexible document. It, of course, has now been refreshed and will be re-released, so to speak, back to you and updated and giving you an update about it at the March board meeting. We have, over the last year, added and refreshed and deleted some of the activities that reflect the pillars and themes of that plan. We'll bring you that at the March board meeting, along with some of the metrics that we use to really evaluate how well we're doing on that strategic plan. One of those, of course, is dual enrollment, which you've heard a lot about today. And so you will also see at the March board meeting some very interesting analysis of dual enrollment across the TBR sector, with particular emphasis at the TCAT. So we have some very exciting things to show you at the March board meeting. In addition, the board will recall that just in September, you heard the 4 schools that were selected to be part of the Reimagining Community College experience, or what we still affectionately call Project Calypso. Southwest, Jackson, Pellissippi, and Walters, all of whom have been deeply engaged these last few months, refining their plans for how to implement the concepts that we discussed several board meetings back about rethinking the way the student encounters the college, putting workforce-ready credentials in their first semester, more robust career exploration, etc. Those 4 colleges are hard at work on that. I will bring you an update about that project in the spring, in anticipation of the fall 23 launch for the 4 pilot schools. As part of that, finally, we are developing some more tools to help those colleges and really all of our colleges think through some of those issues. This board is used to seeing lots of data, both publicly available and in our presentations, regarding college enrollment and access questions with demographic breakdowns, student success measured in terms of momentum year metrics, learning support, course pass rates, retention rates, graduation rates. That data is ubiquitous, and we see that a lot. What we have not heretofore had the chance to do, which we will introduce to you in March, is a way to then connect that with an additional piece. And the piece is related to how we can look at that same panoply of data, but at the K-12 district and high school level. So for instance, Dr. Luna Vetter can take Montgomery County's students who go to college and look precisely at how well they do when they encounter a TBR college by high school, and then have more direct conversations about how well those pathways are working and what needs to be done to address some policy challenges. So that's a tool we're excited to bring you in March. The presidents will probably get a preview of it here in the next few months so they can begin to use it, but it's one that opens up some new doors for data analysis for us. We're excited to show you. So with that, turning to the oral history project. So the last year or so has been a pretty reflective year for the board. We acknowledged our 50th anniversary at the June board meeting. And fortuitously, the last few years we've been working on a project that really began actually from a phone call that Dr. Whaley, you made to me several years ago. I think Roane State had just lost a former staff member, and you made the comment to me that it would be wonderful if we could capture some of the history that we were losing over the years from TBR folks who have come and gone before us. Talked to Dr. Tidings, we thought that was a splendid idea, and so over the last couple years we have commissioned Dr. Rich Rhoda to lead that effort for us. Dr. Rhoda, of course, is familiar to you, and there's no better person in Tennessee to execute an oral history project than Dr. Rhoda, whose own dissertation explored the early history of Tennessee higher education, And quite frankly, and hope I don't date you, Dr. Rhoda, but you lived a lot of this history, both at TBR and at THEC. So I don't want to steal any of his thunder. We're excited to bring him to the podium to offer some comments about that project. It is on the website now. It is for the public to see. And at the conclusion of this, we're going to show you a very brief clip from one of the interviews that he conducted with Governor Winfield Dunn, reflecting on the history of TBR. So with that, Dr. Rhoda.
I really hadn't thought of it that way, but he's right. Yeah. So, members of the board, thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure. Thanks to Dr. Deaton, Chancellor Tidings, Vice Chair Reynolds, the other members of the board, and Regent Shelton, who is one of our graduates, I would note. So at the 50th anniversary celebration in June, I talked a bit about the actual history of the system, and I won't do that. I'll try not to repeat myself. I'll get into the significant events or turning points, tipping points. But I would like to highlight very briefly just a few things that I hope you'll notice when you have the time to watch and come in and out of these interviews about the people and what you'd learn or look for the people who have participated so far. Now, in preface to that, I want to note that this project really reflects a great deal of goodwill on the part of many. All the time, services, production were provided by in kind by campus faculty and staff and board staff. A good number of students on the different campuses were involved in the interviews, which was kind of fun. Talk about feeling old, but they're engaged. So goodwill and collaboration went a long way in this project, and I just wanted to note that. And you'll also notice that we did interviews at a lot of different places under a lot of different circumstances. So the central idea of this whole project was to capture, as Russ said, firsthand accounts of those directly involved in some of the more significant events in the Board of Regents system or Tennessee higher education over the last 50 years. A total of 39 individuals have been interviewed so far, and there are many others who have expressed an interest or indicated they could be coerced into participating in the program. I hope you will notice we made an effort to err on the side of informality with the conversations rather than official, formal interviews. The intent was not only to hear the individuals comment on their analysis of things that they were a part of and the dynamics and hearing from their own voices, but to get a sense of their personality, some animation, some three-dimensional view of who these people are. One of the things that struck me in working on this project is the multiple roles that many people, individuals, played in Tennessee higher education over the years and over the course of their careers, and how they carried forward lessons learned and relationships from those previous positions, one to another. And Regent Apple is a good example of that, of her. No, I was going to say, more existential, different characteristics. But anyway, so again, a summary comment, I think to the person, everybody who has been interviewed, participated, expressed a genuine pride in their association with the system, and they remain committed to the system and know that it's in good hands and there's a common good for the system. So one last editorial comment on my part. There was something about this system that came through very clearly. It characterized as a kind of, it forged a brand of leadership, camaraderie and collaboration. Strong personalities, no problem there, but with a solid understanding of what it's like and the advantages of being in the system. So going forward, I would certainly encourage continuation of the project. It truly is a work in progress, and it goes in all sorts of different directions. As Russ mentioned, these could easily tie into, be connected with institutional histories, oral histories. There are many gaps in the project as it is right now, but that was just a matter of getting our act together, my act together on how to go about this. But I think there is something that really needs to looking forward, particularly what you have done and accomplished as a board, as a system over the last couple of years under these extraordinary circumstances really do need to be captured. And again, I think the board is in a great position to deal with these issues and really would like to capture it for all sorts of good reasons. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Dr. Rhoda? I know we all look forward to, oh, look at some of these interviews. This is great. I know we look forward to spending time with this, and it's so critical to capture our history. Thank you and you're the perfect person to have done this, so thank you.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, no,
We'll see what
we
history
know.
thinks about that, yeah.
We
Right.
know. Thank you.
So, Carol, are you ready to go? By the way, Winfield Dunn, and I know he was at the March convening, is just such a fine gentleman, and it was really, it was fun interviewing him.
Influence. Good. So as far as actually then the getting to a governance change where the higher education elements that were under the department or the Board of Education coming out under that and under a new Board of Regents. There was a study committee that you commissioned, and Nelson Andrews from Nashville was the chair of that. Did they have marching orders, or how did that unfold?
I had learned a great deal by the time we determined that we should appoint a committee to investigate and understand many of the elements that were at work in higher education. Nelson Andrews, no longer with us, was an outstanding citizen and just the person to head up such a committee. He did so at great length while I was distracted by many other factors learning to be governor. And the end result of his wonderful work was a report proposing that there be some serious separations of responsibilities and that a Board of Regents carefully selected could attend to matters that were on the planning board to be encompassed by a Board of Regents. So that was how it all got going.
Anything else, gentlemen? Wow. That one interview alone speaks for why it is so important to capture the reminiscences in our history while we can. We have been blessed with great leadership in this state, and Governor Dunn is a giant among many, so thank you for doing that. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Rhoda? Well, it always gives me great pleasure just to see you, so thank you for being here with us today. We look forward to more, and I look forward to doing a deep dive in this great work. Thank you, sir. Chancellor?
That is all I have, Madam.
Well, and I just realized I just jumped in, sorry.
No, that was all I
Okay,
had.
thank you.
We're good.
We're good? All right, thank you. Oh, to Dr. Den, thank you so much. You are an amazing leader. Regina, welcome. We look forward to working with you in these exciting times, so thank you all. We do not have any unfinished business to come before us, so we will jump into new business. We have a consent agenda before us. You will recall we have been over all three items on this consent agenda, 2 policy changes, one with regard to undergraduate academic retention and GPA standards, the second with regard to purchasing policy, those we reviewed at our November 15 committee chairs meeting. The third item was, and I'll editorialize here slightly, the very excellent strategic plan that was presented to us by Dr. Ashford from Chattanooga State, which she did in advance since she was not able to be here today. I would propose that we take all three of these together. Of course, any member of the board is welcome to separate one or more of these items from the consent agenda. But if that is not your desire, we will call on a motion to approve all three. Thank you, Regent Varlin.
Second.
Thank you, Regent White. Any discussion? If not, Brian, once again, a roll call vote, please, sir.
Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent Long,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Oh, sorry. Aye. Sorry.
Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wong,
Aye.
Regent White. Aye. The motion carries.
Thank you, sir. We now turn to our informational reporting. Of course, we've already heard the great report from the Clarksville-Montgomery County School System and our partnership there. Making her way to the podium, I hope, is Vice Chancellor Alicia Fox to present us with her 2021-22 financial report.
All right. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is the informational item. I'll try to make it quick for you, but there is a lot of information here, a lot of numbers to go over. Feel free to stop me and jump in if you have any questions. But again, in the effort of time, I'm going to try to go through it quickly, but we do have quite a few slides today. But today I will be presenting the report on financial performance of the community college and TCAT sectors for FY 21-22. In addition to the following presentation included in your materials, you should have received a copy of the fiscal year 21-22 annual financial report for the Tennessee Board of Regents system. The report includes the consolidated financial information for the 6 locally governed institutions. Those are the 6 public universities not part of the UT system, 13 community colleges, 27 TCATs, and the system office. Additionally, this report includes the reporting entities' foundations. Again, both the annual financial report and the following financial presentation are information items only and require no action. Now I would like to share the consolidated financial information for the community college and TCAT sectors. TBR policy regarding institutional financial performance review requires that on an annual basis, the board shall be advised on the aggregate overall financial performance of the system's institutions. Next slide. This is the 10th year for reporting this to the board. To aid in the assessment, we use various financial ratios that are widely accepted in colleges and universities, as well as other financial information related to overall unrestricted net asset position, or fund balances, if you will. As required by policy, we will present aggregate results by each sector, including sector average performance, expected or target performance level, and watch levels. Next slide, please. The first chart that I want to review with you reflects the total amount of adjusted unrestricted net assets by sector and the change of those assets over time. As you will see from the chart, FY 21-22 was a good year for both the community college and TCAT sector. Adjusted unrestricted net assets for the community colleges increased by about $79 million, while the TCATs increased by $13 million. The percent increase for community colleges and TCATs combined was 15.3%. Additionally, the report is telling us that community colleges have about 10.3 months of unrestricted net assets available when compared to annual revenue. The TCATs have about 10 months available. If you assume that expenditures will somewhat mirror revenues, then I think these numbers are positive. About 7 months of reserve is what you would hope to see. As you can see, for both the community colleges and TCATs, these numbers have generally improved over time. There were a couple of very unusual dynamics going on in FY 21 and 22 that continued from 2021. During the pandemic, our community colleges experienced significant declines in enrollment in 2021, and those declines continued for 21-22, which of course negatively impacted tuition income. However, our colleges received extensions of federal CARES and HERF funds, which provided significant financial support to our colleges again this year. A portion of that financial support was used to offset the decline in tuition income. And the fact that our institutions were generally well prepared financially before the pandemic, and because the institutions took additional measures during FY 2021 to control spending, we were able to experience the increase in net assets that I just shared with you. In my opinion, this measure, which uses the adjusted unrestricted net assets as a measurement tool, is one of the best gauges of financial performance. It gives a clear picture of how the bottom line is moving and in which direction. It also gives you an idea of the sufficiency of fund balance level. Now we will look by sector at the various other financial ratios that are used in the Composite Financial Index, or the CFI calculation.
The CFI is a financial index that is generally used to measure the overall financial health of an institution. I will briefly describe these ratios as we go through each slide. Please note that going forward on the slides, the green line is expected performance, the red line is watch level, and the blue lines will show the performance ratio for each sector. For efficiency purposes, both sectors are shown on one chart. In each chart, the community college is reflected in the bright blue line. The TCAT performance is reflected in the navy blue line. I do want you to keep in mind that while these ratios are indicators of financial health, they are certainly not absolutes. Next slide, please. The primary reserve ratio measures financial strength by providing information on how long an institution can survive on current reserves or savings. The standard is 0.4, which represents 5 months of expenses. The watch level is 0.13, which represents less than 1.5 months of expense. As you will see from the chart, the community college sector exceeds the target level of performance and has increased over the last 6 years, which means their reserves for that sector as a whole are in pretty good shape. The TCAT sector also exceeded the target level and remained relatively flat over the previous year. Next slide. The return on net position ratio provides information on whether the institution is better off at the end of the period compared to the beginning of the period. This is a ratio where the receipt of a large non-recurring state appropriation or gift for investment in plant funds or buildings can create year-to-year volatility and really skew the results, especially for smaller schools. The industry standard is 3% above inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. The watch level is performance consistently below the rate of inflation. Due to an increase in the CPI of 3.7% from June 2021 to June 2022, most of the community colleges are at or below the watch level. The watch level this year is at 9.1%, significantly above the 5.39% from FY 2021 because of the spike in inflation this year. And the expected level is 12.1, significantly above the 8.39% in FY 21 and 3.65% in FY 20. The community college sector is at 9.07%, which in the 9 years prior to fiscal year 22 would have far exceeded the expected ratio. The TCATs are impacted similarly, with most performing at slightly below the target level. But here, for example, you can really see the impact of those large recurring state appropriations or gifts and investments in plant and buildings. Those are where you see the spikes in 16, 20, and 21. Those are related to those types of non-recurring revenue. The net operating revenue ratio indicates an operating surplus or deficit and is similar to a profit margin and provides information on whether an institution is living within available means. Next slide, please. The industry standard is 4%, which represents the amount needed to keep pace with gross and expenses and maintain adequate reserves. The watch level is performance that is consistently below 0. Note that the deficit in a single year does not necessarily indicate a problem, but deficits over several years may be cause for concern. This ratio can also tend to be volatile and again be negatively impacted by things that are outside of the institution's control, such as required pension and OPEB accounting entries, depreciation expense, capital maintenance expenditures that are funded from capital appropriations. As you can see, the community college performed above the target level. The TCAT sector also performed above the target level and has improved over the last 4 years. Next slide, please. The viability ratio measures financial health by comparing expendable net assets to long-term debt and provides information on how much debt can be paid with existing resources. We're going to skip over this ratio because our schools basically have little to no debt. Next slide, please. So the last chart we're looking at here is the Composite Financial Index, or the CFI. To calculate the CFI, the 4 ratios discussed previously are combined to provide a single measure of the overall financial health of an institution. Tracking the CFI over time provides information on the progress an institution is making towards achieving financial goals. The target is a CFI of at least 3, and at this level, an institution is considered relatively financially healthy. The watch level is a CFI of 1 or less. For the community college sector, the performance for FY 2022 exceeds the target level, which would indicate the sector as a whole is doing pretty well. For the TCATs, this performance also exceeds the target level, but did show a decrease from the prior year. Essentially, this is due to large capital funding to 4 TCATs in FY 2021 that caused the large return on net position ratios, and those returned to more normal levels in FY 22. So for the last piece of information, I'm sharing the actual performance for FY 2021 compared to the estimated budget for June 30, 2022. Next slide, please. The community colleges, you will see that the unrestricted education and general actual revenue collection exceeded budget by 29 million or 4.6%. The unrestricted expenditures were at 62 million or 10% less than budget. Next slide, please. For the TCATs, the revenues are basically equal to the amount budgeted, and expenditures are about 14.5 million or 11% less than budgeted. For the most part, I think this demonstrates relatively conservative budget and management practices by our colleges. Next slide. I would like to conclude with just a few summary observations. The adjusted unrestricted net assets calculation and the CFI score are two of the main measures that we use to monitor the college's financial health. We include the unrestricted net assets calculation as a supplement to the CFI because it is generally less volatile and focuses on factors within the institution's control. 12 of our 13 community colleges increased their unrestricted net assets in FY 21-22. 24 of our 26 TCATs increased their adjusted unrestricted net assets in FY 21-22, and for the two that did not increase, they were relatively flat. Next slide. Both community colleges and TCATs were above the expected performance level for all the ratios except as noted on the return on net position ratio, which fluctuates based on CPI, and when compared to previous years with lower inflation rates, these ratios would have far exceeded the expected performance. Overall, the financial results for 2021 were good. A few things to keep in mind going forward. Community colleges have experienced significant declines in the past 2 years related to the pandemic. This will more than likely have a negative impact on outcomes-based funding in future years. But CARES and HER funds have been used to minimize those impacts over the past years, and this will be the last year that those funds are available. So in conclusion, while we continue to monitor all of our colleges' financial performance, I do want to thank all of our 40 colleges for their efforts and their attention to their overall financial condition and performance. So unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, this completes our report.
Anything for Dr. Fox? That was a lot to absorb, but I know we have materials in advance too. Regent Gill?
Why do you keep looking at me?
Because I know you love this stuff.
One comment. In public policy, there is a sort of a saying that says that people are policy. When you look at what's happened to this institution financially from 18 to today, we have the right people in place.
Oh.
Y'all done a fabulous job.
Well said. Thank you. That's
great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. We'll see you back up here in just a few minutes, I think. Moving on to our external affairs update, I see Vice Chancellor McCormick. She has a couple of reports for us today with her team.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to take that off. That's not for me, by the way. It's for you. I'm just getting over an illness. So, well, good morning, Vice Chair, Chancellor, members of the board. We have an exciting update today in external affairs. As you know, at the last meeting, Chris Perkins did an overview of our system-wide advancement, but today he's going to do an overview of our colleges. So at this time, Chris, would you like to come up?
Thank you. Good morning, Chancellor and Vice Chair Reynolds and our esteemed board members. It's my privilege to be here in front of you today to present some highlights from the FY22 fundraising and grants report that you should have at your table there. And as Dr. McCormick said, in June, our treasurer, Eric Kleinite, presented to you our system foundation. So I'm just going to give you an overview of our community colleges and to say that what I'm about to give you for FY22 is a lot of hard work from our community college presidents, their outstanding advancement teams. We have some really awesome people across the state that doing this work. So FY22 marked a record high in fundraising combined for our 13 community colleges at over $18 million combined. That total was up $5.5 million from FY21. Columbia State, Dr. Janet Smith and Bethany Lay were our top fundraisers this year. They had a planned gift that came in that really helped boost that. And then second was Roane State and Dr. Chris Whaley and Scott Neerman and his outstanding advancement team. They were at $3.1 million, and they had a planned gift that came in as well that upped their amount this year. And then I also wanted to say kudos to Dr. Cook and Amanda Walker at Dyersburg State. As I tell you every year, when I give this report, I get a call first thing the next morning. I would get a call from Dr. Boyer wanting to know if they were 1, 2, and so I thought it was really great. And I told Amanda this in Dyersburg that they stayed where they stayed this year with the presidential change and everything. So we had 8 community colleges reach the $1 million mark or more in fundraising this year. For the last 2 years, we only had 5 community colleges reach that total. So that number is up. Next. And as we keep rolling along with the number 8, we also had 8 community college foundations that increased their giving over FY21. And our endowments are at 119 million, almost 120 million, which is down. And that's collective, all the 13 community colleges combined, that's the total endowments. Next slide. And I just wanted to give you a quick review because that report came in June. So we closed out our year at the System Foundation has over 2.3 million in total cash assets. We now hold that, and then we raised almost 1.1 million last year in FY22, and we had 4 major gifts that came in of $100,000 or more to the System Foundation this past year. And then most importantly with that, and on that last slide, is we were able to give $195,000 and $195,738 in scholarships to students in FY22, which is what we're here for. And then this last slide, just wanted to remind you, SOAR will be held March 28th, 29th. We've got a new location, the Sheridan Grand in downtown. And so far, we've raised $65,500 in total sponsorships. And Vice Chair Reynolds, you'll remember in Regent Varlin that first year, I left this meeting in December. We were at 0, and I was sweating all the way down to Disneyland. So we're at a good place on that. And as luck would have it, in your foundation and grant reports, we do have a SOAR sponsorship sheet. So if the spirit moves you, that's awesome. If not, if you know somebody or a company that might have interest, just let us know. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Anything for Chris? But I think to follow up on Regent Gill's comment, it's great financial management, and it's also our community colleges being out raising money as well. So this is a great trend in both directions, and we thank you.
Thank you.
And Regent Varlin, because I know you've put a lot of time and effort and your expertise into this as well. So thank you.
Regent Varlin's a great ally to have.
Aw, she's a great ally on anything. That's absolutely right.
Thank you all.
No, thank you, Chris.
I want to reiterate that because Regent Varlin, you've really helped us a lot in finding sponsorships and partners across the whole state, and especially with SOAR. And I really want everyone to know that SOAR is, as you know, a wonderful, wonderful event, but most of that event is paid through donations from our partners across the state, so it's wonderful. So now to turn to government relations, busy year coming up, as you all know, in a new session, 20 new members. John Williams and team have, they've actually spent the summer going out into the districts, meeting with current legislators in their districts. And then we're going to be soon meeting with all the new members, and those are being scheduled now. So John is going to come up, if you will allow, now to talk about what's going on in government relations, the work they've been doing, what we're seeing coming before us in the next session. So John?
Thank you, Dr. McCormick. Good morning, Vice Chair Reynolds, board members, Chancellor Tidings. I want to give a brief government relations update. Excited to be here this morning. I will recap our 2023 legislative priorities that were affirmed in September at the board meeting. Talk a little bit about how the general election this past month affected the makeup of the General Assembly, and talk a little bit about what has been filed thus far for the 113th General Assembly. Our 2023 legislative priorities include pursuing critical and equitable formula, capital outlay, and equipment and program funding requests, supporting efforts to expand college access and affordability for all Tennesseans, further enhance the safety and security of the system's faculty, staff, and students, advocate for and pursue resources and technological advancements that improve our ability to deliver curriculum wherever and however necessary. Ensure that system institutions are afforded the flexibility and resources to be nimble in response to the continually evolving academic and personal needs required for student success. And finally, encouraging system-wide recruitment and retention of diverse faculty and staff with intense professional understanding and real-world knowledge. So those will be the priorities that we're advocating for when we're meeting with legislators throughout their districts and in the General Assembly in the coming months. Next, I want to provide an overview of how the 2022 general election affected the makeup of the legislature. In the Senate, 17 seats were up for election, the odd-numbered districts this year, and it resulted in 3 new members of the state Senate due to retirements. So the partisan makeup remained the same there, with 6 Democrats and 27 Republicans. And those include Senator Adam Lowe, who's representing Senate District 1, which is part of Bradley County, McMinn, Meigs, and Ray. And that seat was formerly held by Senator Mike Bell. Then we have Senator Charlene Oliver in Senate District 19, which is part of Davidson County, the area formerly represented by Senator Brenda Gilmore, and Senator Brent Taylor in Senate District 31, part of Shelby County, formerly held by Senator Brian Kelsey. On the House side, all 99 seats were up for re-election. We're seeing a number of new faces coming in January on that side of the chamber. 17 new members of the State House. The partisan control remains essentially the same, with 24 Democratic Party members and 75 Republican Party members there. And the next slide will show all of their faces. I won't go through them individually, but you should have in your materials a list of the members and their districts. Resulted from a number of retirements, creation of new seats due to redistricting, that type of thing. We've already begun meeting with some of those members. We had one meeting yesterday and have a handful on the calendar already. So trying to build relationships there and go ahead and tell them the story of our students and faculty and staff. And I'm excited to introduce you to the newest member of the government relations team, Patrick Boggs, who's back in the back here, joined our team in August, and we're very excited to have him. He formerly worked in the House of Representatives as a research analyst for 17 years, so has a deep knowledge of the legislature and lots of great experience. He worked for the Finance Committee and then most recently for Chairman White in the Education Committee on the House side, so we're very excited to have him on the team this year. And we're beginning to watch bills slowly being filed for the 113th General Assembly. There are about a dozen that have been filed so far, so we're tracking those, watching the captions of those, and we'll provide updates as bills that are notable for you or for our system are filed in the coming months. And the 113th General Assembly will convene at noon on January 10th. So we've already seen the bill filing deadline for the Senate, I believe, is going to be February the 6th. So things are getting in motion and will quickly start ramping up. So we're excited to share with you in the coming months what's going on. But that concludes my presentation, and happy to take any questions you may have.
Would you ask Patrick to stand and wave?
Yes.
There he is. Congratulations. Welcome, Patrick. Anything for John? All right, team, good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know you've got a busy few months in store. Exactly. Vice Chancellor?
And just to follow up on that, as you all know, we do bill review when session is going on. We do bill review every Friday.
Yeah.
So we're going to be starting that back up soon. And also, as you know, when we do that bill review, we send the results of those meetings and the legislation that we're watching to you all, so you have it as well. So, and again, I am so thankful for this team. We've got a really strong government relations team and all of external affairs. So we look forward to the next year working with you all in the General Assembly.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank
Glad
you.
You're feeling better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Dr. Smith, have you heard from Dr. Boyer yet, or have you texted her?
I haven't talked to her today, but last week or so I did. She's doing well. She's been on the road quite a bit, attending to, I think she did a SACS review. That was her last one, and then she headed up north and was out for a couple of weeks.
Okay, we'll give her our best.
Enjoying her retirement.
Good report. So that's great. So I thought maybe you were you were gloating over your 5 million figure. Well done. We appreciate you. Well done. You guys, next on our agenda is the report of our board self-assessment, and I won't spend long on this since all the information was in your packets. But Carol, if you'd hit that next slide, just a couple of highlights. As everybody recalls, we are required to do this every 2 years by our accreditors, by SACS COC. Thanks to everyone. We had 100% participation this year, and everyone was very timely, which enabled Amy Moreland, who does a brilliant job for us, to put all the information together. And again, you've got the graphs and the charts in your packet. As you know, next slide, please, Carol. We had about 26 questions in the questionnaire. Buckets were general questions about the board, about our board meetings, our committee structure. For those who had joined since the previous assessment and who had gone through orientation and onboarding, questions for them, open-ended questions, and then of course asking you guys of strengths and areas of improvement. So from all of that, 4 broad themes emerged. By and large, and there's great consensus and unanimity in some cases on some of these questions, not all, but certainly most. Folks feel that we have a clear set of priorities and a strategic vision. Our team really appreciates the open line of communication with Chancellor and her team, and accessibility to information. So some very positive comments made there. We all want even more time for deliberation and discussion, which I think we were all looking forward as well to the retreat we had then in October, and any other work sessions that we might schedule, which really give us that valuable time for deliberation. And then finally, kind of along those same lines, we want to continue to develop as a board. We love getting educated on these issues. You guys want even more information rather, as we just received this morning around student enrollment and success trends. And as I mentioned earlier, and as we heard, those partnerships that we have with counties and relationships with local superintendents and what's happening there. So in a nutshell, those were just a few of the highlights. I will add that there were comments about we have a transparent conversation around our priorities. We're doing a better and better job of taking a strategic view into the future. The accessibility of the staff, as I mentioned a moment ago, one member noted, has always been impressive to them. So again, thanks to you all. It will be 2 short years before we do this again. But in the meantime, as I said, you have access to all of the materials with that. That little homework assignment is done and ready to go as SACS COC continues to accredit our community colleges over the next couple of years. If there are no questions or comments there, I would like to keep moving. One important item out of our board assessment, and this is a good thing because this doesn't happen to us, but by and large we need to know. You did reflect that we need yet another refresher on the process for removal of a board member. And again, this is not something we've done, certainly Danny in our time here, which is why it comes back every 2 years, as we're not entirely sure what that process might be. So since these responses are fresh to us, let's go ahead and take a moment for Brian to refresh our memories on that process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And fortunately, this is just a theoretical issue, as you mentioned, because at some systems it could be titled How to Vote Each Other Off the Island. But so this is just going to be a simple reminder of the process. An overall summary is that there has to be a material violation of the Code of Ethics that would justify removal. And 2/3 of the board membership, not a quorum, but 2/3 of the actual membership would need to vote. That's the overall summary. The little bit more details are there are two relevant board policies. Both of these were attached to the materials you received just in the past 10 days or so with your conflict of interest forms and updates, and thank you to almost everybody who has gotten them back so far. We've had great response getting them back, so thank you for that. But there's a code of ethics, and then there's a conflict of interest policy for regents. So the conflict of interest is a number of different things, including having a financial interest in a contract affecting TBR, misusing your authority for a private benefit, knowingly accepting gifts from someone trying to contract with TBR, those types of financial issues, as well as the lack of diligence, failure to attend, failure to participate in meetings, all of which could rise to the level of a material violation. So if there were ever the need to try to do this, there would be, any deliberations would have to be subject to the Open Meetings Act. Y'all will remember anytime two or more board members get together and deliberate towards a decision, that has to be in the Open Meetings Act. So there could not be any secret deliberations in terms of trying to figure out secret deliberations among board members trying to figure that out. And then the board would vote on whether a violation took place, whether that violation was material, and whether removal is the appropriate remedy for any such violation. That vote would be only after a due process hearing pursuant to the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act, which is essentially a mini trial that could have discovery in it, that would be presided over by an administrative law judge, essentially sitting as a judge, and then y'all would sit as the jury on your peers on that. And then it would take a 2/3 vote of the membership to remove somebody. So there's a considerable amount of due process, and it would be very difficult to vote somebody off the island. But it would also be a very public process, meaning that likely these things would be resolved informally if it ever arose, would be my guess. But hopefully we will continue to have a long stream of time where it is not necessary.
Any questions for Brian? All right, thank you very much for once again refreshing our memories on that one. And our next item, Dick Tracy. We always love getting updates on Blue Oval City, and today's Dick is going to give us a quick update on construction.
Yes, ma'am. So right now in construction, we've issued the initial GMP to the construction manager. This is a fairly complicated project, but what we've done is we've contracted for long lead items. Some of the equipment's a year out, so we've gone ahead and ordered that. The contractor tomorrow will be starting their stormwater work on the site, and I think their current schedule is they'll start grading on the site next week. We've broken this up into our guaranteed maximum price. We've got 4 different packages. That's going to allow us to kind of accelerate the schedule and also address those long lead items. So the mechanical equipment, the electrical equipment, some of that's almost a year out. Our steel package is about a year, about 8 months to get that in, and roofing's about 8 months. So those packages we're getting ready to execute so they can order those materials. Currently, our schedule is to be completed May 1st of 2024. Prior to that, we'll be we've working with a construction manager so that we'll actually be installing equipment while the construction's finishing. So right now, we're on schedule. We've still got a lot of challenges for our utilities, budget, labor and workforce, but right now we're in pretty good shape.
Questions? It's a very exciting time. So if we were to go to the site today, what would we see?
No, it's just they haven't started grading, so they're mobilizing on the site, and then I think starting on tomorrow, actually on the 2nd, they'll start putting up straw bales, getting ready for the grading. And I believe on their current schedule, I think is on the 8th, they're going to start mobilizing to start grading on the site, and then shortly after they'll probably start digging the foundations and footings. And the plan is to have that done, I believe, in around February. And then shortly after that, our steel packages hopefully will start, we can start erecting steel. Again, that's all based off of getting the steel delivered on site.
And if I was there, how far away then is the Ford SKG work?
It's probably about a half a mile maybe as the
Okay.
crow flies.
Okay.
We're kind of southeast, where as you get off the interstate, we're kind of on the southeast corner of the property there, further north onto the west of the mega site.
Okay.
But they're well into construction. I think they're having an event planned for next Friday, and I think they're going to do some tours of what the construction is going on. And that's been part of the challenge. They pretty much have drained the whole labor market for that area, which it was pretty thin to begin with. I've talked to their contractor. They have some ability to go offshore, buy a lot of their materials to help expedite the schedule. It's some things that we don't necessarily have those same opportunities. So but like I say, right now, everything's going as planned.
Just keep us posted. Anybody have anything for Dick? It is an exciting time for West Tennessee, that's for sure.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.
All right.
All right, everybody. We are ready to move into our action items portion of our agenda. And Dr. Fox is back up with our revised budget.
I know you're all excited to see me again. The first section was so exciting. This one's a little shorter, I promise. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. At this time, I will be presenting the FY 22-23 October budget revisions for your consideration and approval. Next slide. As is standard, the board approved the FY 23 proposed budget at the June 2022 meeting. This approval provided the initial budgetary operating authority for our current fiscal year. However, the proposed budget does not recognize factors such as fall enrollment changes, state budget adjustments, or current grant and revenue activity. The revised budget allows us to assess these factors and make necessary adjustments. The following slides will provide a high-level summary comparing the FY 21-22 revised budget to the current year FY 22-23 revised budget and the differences between the two. Next slide. Going forward, I will highlight some of the notable increases and decreases on each slide. The first slide we'll review is revenue. Press pause on the state appropriations on that first line as we'll talk about those on the next slide. Under maintenance and mandatory fees and tuitions, you will recall that we had a 0 tuition increase in FY 23 and enrollment continued to trend down at our community colleges, and that is reflected in the decrease of these line items. Our student fees increased by 10% due to increased continuing education registrations and a reduction in contra revenue accounts due to the write-off of bad debt or student loans using CARE and HERF funds. Sales, services, and other, which include things like unrestricted state, local, and private contracts, sales and services including live work such as dental hygiene and cosmetology, testing fees, facility rentals, surplus, etc. We had a decrease of approximately $14 million in budgeted lost revenue recoveries from our community colleges. These recoveries are recorded in the accounting records as other revenue. So that's the reflection you're seeing there. Restricted decrease occurred primarily due to reductions in HERF grants received by institutions, i.e. they did not receive as many HERF funds this year as they did in the previous year, and a reduction in federal financial aid due to the 5.7% enrollment decline at our community colleges. Next slide. So the previous slide noted a 14% increase in state appropriations revenue. This slide is showing you the breakdown of those adjustments, with, as you can see, the majority being attributed to the nearly $44 million in legislative amendments for initiatives included, but not limited to, waitlist and capacity funding, the correctional officer training, CDL training, and campus safety and security. Slide 5. Slide 5 is showing expenditures by function. Modest growth in expenditures at around 6% is reflected, and this includes a 4% cost of living adjustment. The institutional support increase you see there can largely be attributed to the system budget expenditures related to the legislative amendment appropriations for initiatives discussed in the previous slide. As noted in that slide, these expenditures are essentially being offset by appropriated revenues. The remaining increase is due primarily to inflationary impact on operating expenses across the system. The operations and maintenance increase that you see is primarily due to the anticipated inflationary impact on supplies, utility, and maintenance costs in this fiscal year. Next slide. Slide 6 is showing you expenditures by classification. Salaries and benefits, again, a cost of living adjustment of 4% was included this year, as well as some investments in salary plan and one-time payments, as you noted in our consent agenda earlier. Travel and professional development opportunities have returned to in-person activities, where most were online during COVID, so we are seeing some increase in travel due to pre-COVID types of events. Operating, again, increases primarily due to the inflationary impact on utilities, operating, and fuel supplies this year. Slide 7. This slide provides a summary that includes both unrestricted and restricted funds, expenditures, and transfers. When you include the restricted funds with the unrestricted, we're showing a 3% overall decrease in expenditures across the board. Transfers are down significantly, and I will discuss that on the next slide. The decrease you see in restricted is due to the reductions in the HERF grants that the institutions received by institutions to offset the global pandemic. And again, reduction in financial aid assistance due to the 5.7% enrollment decline. Our total expenditures for unrestricted and restricted for FY 22-23, on the previous slide, sorry, Carol, are $1.4 billion. Now slide. And this slide is breaking down that transfer activity that was shown on the previous slide. So transfer activity, or transfer of carryover funds from the previous fiscal year. These are non-recurring funds. Normally, these carryover funds are budgeted as a transfer to plant funds in October for non-recurring investment in physical plant and equipment. Under the retirement of indebtedness, this includes Walter State Community College and Chattanooga State Community College, who both resolved debts, making up the majority of this number in the percent decrease. Unexpended plant includes an $11 million transfer from one college for campus renovations in FY22 that was not repeated in FY23. Under renewal and replacement, this includes an $8.2 million transfer from one community college to renewal and replacement to fund equipment replacement that was not repeated in the current fiscal year. Additionally, one TCAT budgeted a $5 million transfer to renewal and replacement in 22 for a new building, and this transfer in 23 was only $1.4 million. Slide 9. And this chart shows a reconciliation from beginning fund balance to ending fund balance. The overall decline is approximately $48.7 million, but is primarily attributed to institutions transferring carryover funds to plant funds for future equipment and capital expenditures. When we look at revenue versus expense, excluding the transfers, the colleges have budgeted a net gain of approximately $8.2 million. Therefore, they are living within their means. Slide 10 summarizes the total number of authorized positions. With approval of this budget, the board will be authorizing a grand total of positions for the system of 6,956 as compared to last year's 6,965. This is a decrease of 9 positions. Those break down by total number of unrestricted positions this year is 6,396 compared to 6,432 last year, which is a decrease of 36 unrestricted positions. The total number of restricted positions this year is 560 compared to 533 last year, for an increase of 27 positions. Slide 11, please. This slide provides a final summary of the October revised budget that is before you today for approval. However, before we ask for your approval, we need to include some information related to the locally governed institutions, or the LGI budgets. As you are aware, these are the 6 public universities that are not part of the UT system. Slide 12, please. As you will recall, under the Focus Act, we are required to consider the LGI university budgets, and that consideration is limited to those matters that are necessary to fulfill existing debt covenants, representations, agreements, and obligations under financing agreements entered into with the Tennessee State School Bond Authority. Slide 13, please. To that end, university budgets have been received and reviewed in accordance with TBR Policy 4.01.00.05, consideration of university budgets, and have been determined to meet debt service coverage requirements, have found to be mathematically correct and internally consistent. Universities have certified compliance and required representations, and except as noted above, no judgments have been made regarding university budgets. Madam Chairman, university budgets are recommended for approval as being in compliance with the above TBR policy. Additionally, staff recommends approval of the FY 22-23 October budget for the TBR System Office.
Questions for Dr. Fox?
Just a quick one on turnover of the, 6,900 employees in total. What the turnover rate was for the year? Just
That's
curious.
a good question. I will have to get back to you on that.
The number was pretty consistent from year to year.
Yeah.
I just wondered what
Yes.
the churn within there looked like.
Yes, and I should know that off the top of my head because I just sent something in about that. I'll get back to you on that. It's not very high.
Okay.
We just recently reported that to THEC. Pretty consistent turnover rate. I mean, we've had a little more turnover during the pandemic, just being able to fill positions and people leaving for remote jobs or various reasons, but still consistently pretty low. I mean, people generally tend to be happy at our colleges and stay there. But I can get you an exact number.
Okay.
I'll get back
Thank
to
you.
on that.
If it's easy for you to get, obviously, we're going to be here for a few more minutes, so maybe come back to us before, help me remember.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Fox. If not, you can return it to us at another time.
Sure. I'll be
Thank
happy
you.
to.
Regent Gill.
Can we scroll back? I think it's to slide number 10. I had a question. Is that 10? That's not the one then. Keep going. Okay, yeah, here. Under the unrestricted, these percentages, the unrestricted, explain what those mean. So for example, under the community colleges, 94% is unrestricted as compared to what? 94% of what is unrestricted?
Can't see the screen.
I'd loan you my glasses, but I left them in my car.
I think it's the total budget.
Yes.
94% of the,
The other 6% is restricted.
okay, okay, all right. And so those are positions, that's not revenue, those are positions, okay.
Correct. Number of positions, yes.
All right, okay,
And
good.
types.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't see that part. Small numbers.
This does require your approval. And I'm assuming, Brian, we can combine approval of this October revised budget along with our responsibility with regard to the LGIs and their debt covenants,
That
correct?
is correct.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Varlin.
Second.
Thank you, Regent White. Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the FY 22-23 October revised budget, and we will need a roll call vote.
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Verdine.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Wong.
Aye.
And Regent White.
Aye.
That makes it unanimous. The
Thank
motion
you.
carries.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. Vice Chancellor Deaton, come on down. We have 3 more strategic plans to present today, and I believe this then brings us up to date on all 13 community colleges. Is
That's
that correct?
Yeah, today's tranche is the last you'll see for this cycle. We'll take a year or two hiatus because these have to be periodically refreshed and reviewed, but this will represent the last of this cycle, correct?
Now to the board. Brian has given us permission to take these together in one single roll call vote at the conclusion. Any objections to that? Okay. So Russ, I'm going to leave it to you then to start us with Dyersburg State, and we'll just keep moving through here these next few minutes.
Sounds good. And a couple of notes as Dr. Cook comes to the podium. You'll be acting both on the strategic plan and the college's mission statement. That's an important element for SAC-COC. Also, your materials have all the details, so if you have trouble making out something on the slides, know that everything in your notebooks has the full unabridged details. And then finally, let me preemptively introduce for Jackson State Dr. Jennifer Lopez, who will be presenting on behalf of Dr. Pimentel, who had some surgery and couldn't be with us today. She is the, I guess as of August, Dr. Lopez, the new Vice President of Academic Affairs, whose presence really helped finalize with Dr. Pimentel the strategic plan. So she'll be presenting that for Jackson. So with that, here's Dr. Cook.
Thank you, Dr. Deaton. Chancellor Tidings, Vice Chair Reynolds, and members of the board, it is my pleasure to present Dyersburg State Community College's mission, vision, and strategic plan. I want to begin with the opening slide. You'll notice our title, The College of Choice. As I was meeting with constituents across our campuses when I first arrived at Dyersburg State in January, I heard a constant theme that we're the backup plan. I don't want to be the backup plan. Our employees do not want to be the backup plan. And so we are very purposeful and intentional about adopting the language, the college of choice, because if we don't say it and we don't believe it, no one else will either. So you might have noticed throughout the documents that we presented, wording like the college of choice or the employer of choice, because we're holding ourselves to that standard. This is a brief timeline of how everything developed. As soon as I was appointed in January, we soon thereafter began work on the mission, the vision, and the strategic plan. And to save time, I will just say that we followed the same process for the adoption of the mission and the vision, as well as the strategic plan. It involved campus-wide constituent feedback at every level. Every employee had an opportunity to provide feedback on the mission, the vision, and the strategic plan. We did 2 rounds of campus-wide feedback before we ultimately finalized all 3, sent back out to campus for review, and ultimately submitted to the Tennessee Board of Regents. Our mission is ultimately the same, though we did significantly update the language. I know it was in your packet and you have reviewed, but we're focusing on not just the wording of the mission, but some new core values that we all hold to be true. You'll see those listed there: opportunity, student success and exceptional student service, academic excellence and innovation, integrity, unity and compassion, and impactful communication with our students, employees, and all constituents. Our revised vision really encompasses what we believe to be true in our core values. We want to be the area's premier institution of higher learning. We want to serve students to the best of our ability, and we want to provide the best service we can for citizens of West Tennessee. You can see the variables that influenced our strategic plan. First, the revised mission, our core values, and our vision statement. The Tennessee Board of Regents strategic plan, as well as achieving the dream, quality assurance funding, and other variables. Here are our 5 strategic priorities: student support student success, promote academic excellence, cultivate community and workforce development, strengthen campus culture, and prioritize access and equity. I do not want to read through every one of these, but there's a few things that I do want to point out in our individual goals. First, we have already recognized that we need to do a lot of work on providing the best possible schedule that we can to promote student access. That work has already begun with our first ever academic scheduling summit, which brought constituents from across the college together to start to talk about how we can provide a better student schedule and better student experience. Promoting academic excellence. You can see we're relying on a couple of nationally normed surveys in order to make sure that we are providing the best student experience that we possibly can. We want to be the college of choice, both for academic and for workforce training. And I have given the Vice President for Advancement and External Affairs a pretty significant goal to start to improve and increase our percentage of workforce training. Strengthen campus culture. We want to provide a safe learning experience for our students, our faculty, and our staff. And we have started that by beginning a police department. We've hired our first police chief and are working toward a fully established police force. Promoting academic excellence, the one that I want to point out on this screen is something that our college and our community is incredibly proud of, and that is our Eagle Access program, which is for intellectually and developmentally disadvantaged students. With that, are there any questions that I might be able to answer about our mission, vision, or strategic plan? Thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Job well done. Thank you, sir. Dr. Whaley? Good morning again.
Good morning again. I meant to say this a moment ago, Madam Vice Chair and Chancellor and members of the board. I hope all of you had a good Thanksgiving. So it's good to see all of you. And thanks for this opportunity, this important opportunity. Strategic planning certainly is at the heart of what we're about, what we ought to be about. Practically, when it comes to doing a strategic plan, though, a lot of times we're busy doing our daily work and putting out fires and things of that nature. So I say that to say this. First of all, I have to give a kudos, even though she does not want me to Vice President Karen Bruner, who leads all things strategic planning and achieving the dream and otherwise at Run State. And one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is the team that she put together and brought together during this process. Not only to have a campus-wide conversation, but this specific team that worked tirelessly on this effort, including several new members of the Strategic Planning Committee that she brought together, the monthly meetings that they had and the way that they worked together, I think really is something that I want to applaud. So next slide, please. The first task, of course, as Dr. Deaton mentioned, was reviewing our mission statement, not only because of the importance, because as Dr. Deaton said, there are SACS implications here. And so as we reviewed this, we wanted to make sure that we were looking at our mission statement in a way, first of all, for our vision and value statement, which was affirmed by this group and by the campus community. But we also wanted to make sure to integrate a strong commitment to equity in our mission statement. This comes not only because of the priorities of this board, but also working closely with our Achieving the Dream coaches to make sure that we were very vocal in making sure that we represented our desire in that respect. So next slide, please. So the group studied several sample equity statements from various post-secondary institutions around the country. And since meetings were conducted visually, and since we have these 9 campuses and 2 time zones, we made use of a lot of technology, Google Jamboard to be specific, to brainstorm ideas. And again, the participation, I cannot overstate how important and how valuable and how rich it was. So when we come to this mission statement that you see there, we want every single student to know that they are welcome at Run State, that they are supported at Run State, and that they are going to be equipped to succeed at Run State. Next slide, please. When it comes to the actual plan, we have 4 overarching goals that are aligned, of course, with the system goals and with institutional priorities. And you can see them there: participation, persistence and success, quality, which means both learning and the overall environment, as well as community and workforce development. Then each goal is operationalized by actionable objectives for the achievement of each one. And we wanted to present this in a way, in an infographic way, which frankly we borrowed that idea from the systems plan, which we think is not only strong substantively but very eye-catching. So we borrowed freely from that to come up with what you see now. Next slide, please. Now, in order to assess the achievement of these goals and the objectives, each objective is accompanied by a metric to gauge success, to make sure that we are truly measuring and gauging how well we're doing in each one. For example, we're using for enrollment our 2019 enrollment levels as aspirational benchmarks, since, of course, this was our high water mark pre-COVID. We're very proud, as you see in Objective 1.2, of course, of our one-on-one success coach model of onboarding and advising, but again, taking another page from suggestions from ATD, we are implementing a success measure to know our students even more deeply, that when they come to us, we want to know more about who they are, what their needs are, what their dreams are, and how we can plug in and support each one of them. And then you see there also with objective 1.3, we believe obviously that our academic offerings can both show prospective students the value of post-secondary education as an end in of itself, but particularly when those goals align with workforce needs, which has been much of the conversation that we've already had today. Next slide, please. So the plan was also built around system and institutional priorities and initiatives. Back one, I did that too quickly. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did cross-cutting was the fact that we wanted to integrate objectives and strategies embedded in, for instance, our strategic enrollment management plan, our ongoing work I've mentioned with Achieving the Dream, and other cross-cutting initiatives that you see throughout our plan. So each of the strategic plan goals and objectives will be similarly accompanied by objectives and success indicators, and then alignment with institutional and system cross-cutting initiatives. So you would see for 2, 3, and 4 similar, would look similar to number 1 here. So now the last slide, please. The overarching goal again and the driver is planning for the future with a laser focus on student success. Again, we are focused on enrollment, but we have, I would even say, a greater focus on student persistence and student completion. I always talk about an oversimplification of our mission in the world as being student access and success, and you cannot overlook the success part of that. So with that, I appreciate having a few moments with you, and unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Any questions, comments for Dr. Whaley? Once again, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Lopez? And as Dr. Deaton mentioned, you have joined us just since August. So thank you for being here and giving us a chance to meet you. And you have traveled from Lee's McRae College in lovely Banner Elk, North Carolina, to the alluvial plains of West Tennessee.
That is correct.
Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for allowing me to be here. And good morning to you, Vice Chair Reynolds and Chancellor Tidings, member of the board. First I want to say Dr. Pimentel asked me to express his regrets and his apologies for not being able to be with you here today, this morning. He's at home recovering from a medical procedure on his knee. But it is my honor and my pleasure to be able to present to you the Jackson State Community College Strategic Plan. A little bit of background on this plan is when TBR, as Vice Chancellor Deaton mentioned, sort of refreshed the strategic plan, because we all know that that is a living, breathing, organic document. That gave Jackson State the opportunity to sort of look back on our plan, the original plan from 2015, and evaluate if that plan was still meeting our needs. Specifically, we were looking to see if it was meeting 2 specific needs. One, were we still in alignment with TBR's overarching strategic priorities and goals? And 2, did that plan accurately reflect the status of the college in the community post-pandemic? And the answer to both of those questions were no. In fact, since 2019, Jackson State has experienced a downturn in enrollment of more than 30%. And so faculty, staff, and administration were pretty quick to recognize that more work needed to be done to serve our underprepared, under-resourced, and underrepresented populations, and that change needed to occur. So faculty and staff working together decided to scrap the plan from 2015 and start anew and write a plan that would help us achieve 3 objectives. Those 3 are to become in alignment again with TBR's strategic priorities and goals. 2, to provide the college a blueprint and a framework to help us navigate and overcome some of the challenges that faces the college and the community post-pandemic. And 3, help prepare the college to be nimble in order to act upon all the opportunities that are coming into West Tennessee due to growth in industry. And we want to be prepared for that. So upon my arrival at the college and the convocation of fall 2022, I told faculty and staff, I was once told by a mentor, a great leader has the 3 Ds. And the 3 Ds are to be dynamic, different, and dependable. And I told them, in my opinion, if an organization or an institution wants to be a great leader in their community, that institution must also have the 3 Ds. And so I challenged them to always enact the 3 Ds and to wrap our strategic plan around those 3 Ds. So you will notice that the goals and the strategies that we've put in place in this plan will allow us to be dynamic. I've asked the faculty to be proactive, faculty and staff in college to be proactive rather than be reactive. I've asked them to be different. These strategies will be different. I'm pressing them to be innovative and risk takers. And again, this blueprint and this framework of a plan will allow us to be dependable. It's going to hold us accountable so that we do what we actually say we're going to do. Okay. So with that being said, we can go ahead and look at the plan. It's the next slide. Go ahead and go to the next slide. We'll come back to this one. Okay, so our 3 overarching and strategic priorities reflect those of TBR. So for open access, we're going to be focusing on an enrollment. And then to do that, the college will be strengthening partnerships with our sister institutions, both the TCATs, our high schools, and our 4-year institutions, and creating strong pathways and pipelines of education with multiple entry and exit ramps for our students to meet them where they are when they need education. We will be focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. We will be offering flexibility in terms of course modalities and scheduling, again, to meet the flexible needs of our students. We will provide target marketing to our underrepresented student population. We will be working with our foundation to increase fundraising to provide students more scholarships and building relationships and partnerships with external stakeholders within the community to help potentially grow some co-funding opportunities to expand programs. For the completion, we are focusing on retention and credentials earned. To do that, we are structuring our degree pathways and our degree plans. We are going to use robust first-year advising that also incorporates the initiative that we are working with for the Tennessee coaching model. We are focusing on engagement that is for students to engage in extracurricular and co-curricular activities because we know that a sense of belonging and feeling part of a learning community leads to greater success and completion rates. We are integrating academic support within our courses and our programs. And I'm excited to say that we just put together a CTL, a Center for Teaching and Learning for our faculty, and designated it a space on campus, which will be retrofitted this semester so that faculty have a place to come and get resources, training, and professional development on HIPS practices, TILT, transparency and learning and teaching, and other engagement practices that help our students be more engaged in classes, help retain them, and help them be more successful. Lastly, we're going to be focusing more on data, our collection of data, assessment of data, and use of data to provide benchmarks, establish benchmarks, targets, and then to measure where we are in terms of meeting those goals. Lastly, with the community and workforce development, We're going to focus on workforce training opportunities. We want to offer new and innovative workforce training programs. We want to increase our number of contact hours in workforce development. We want to expand work-based learning opportunities in both our credit and continuing education courses, our workforce courses. And we're going to expand our offerings of work-ready certificates. And those certificates are going to be front-loaded to students in their first semester. Lastly, we will expand our CTE AAS degree offerings to meet the needs of our community and our industry. And we will wrap soft skills into our general education courses that will also be contextualized to different career pathways. And that's all. If y'all have any questions.
You got a big task put on your plate as soon as you arrived, so thank you.
Second day across my desk.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. If you do want to go back, they can look at the mission statement and see the new mission statement wraps around the, reflects the strategic plan. And y'all can see that. I will let you know that faculty and staff started working on this in spring of 2021 before my arrival. As we work to sort of finalize the details on the strategic plan, the plan was presented to the President's Cabinet, the Strategic Planning Committee, the college at large, our foundation board, all in fall of 2022. And we will reveal the strategic plan to our students in spring of 2023.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So board members, we have heard from 3 dynamic, different, and dependable institutions, to borrow Dr. Lopez's words, with their strategic plans. Do we have a motion to approve these? Thank you, Regent White. A second? Regent Shelton, thank you very much. Any further discussion? If not, Brian, would you call the roll?
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Gill. Aye. Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Regent Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Farland.
Aye.
Regent Wong.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And Russ, you are up next with a topic that we have talked about previously here, but it's time to make a final approval.
Well, intermediate approval, I would say.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
December of 2021, I believe this board gave us the initial authorization to pursue the TCAT Paris McKinsey merger. Recall that this is the second one in the queue. The TCATs, formerly Ripley, Covington, Newbern, will be formally merged this fall into TCAT Northwest. This is coming before you now as an intermediate step to get the name changed to TCAT Henry Carroll, which sounds like a 19th century English author. It's not. There's the 2 home counties of the 2 TCATs. So that it is in place before the next fiscal year, where the process really ramps up to finalize the merger, which you will be seeing again next year before it's implemented in fall 2024. So this is just simply the name change. So it's in effect by May, when the summer trimester starts. And finally, President Huffman is here in case there are any questions about how it's going on the campus, but more or less the work is occurring at the system office right now in conjunction with President Huffman and his staff to get things ready for that merger. But today's just the name change.
Any questions for Russ on this? If not, may we have a motion to approve this intermediate step in this process? So, thank you. Regent Apple? Regent Green?
Yep.
A second?
You got it.
Yep, okay. Oh, any further discussion? If not, once again, Brian, we need to approve this with a roll call vote, please.
Regent Apple. Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Regent Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Deaton. Thank you. Oh, Jothany, Dr. Reed is back up with some proposed changes.
Yes, good to see you all again. The Office of Academic Affairs is bringing forward 7 program proposals and 17 program modifications for your review and approval. This is in accordance with TBR Policy 2.01.02.00, Technical College Program Review and Approval. It is also in compliance with the Council of Occupational Education, COE, which requires documentation from the governing agency. These proposals, again, allow the TCATs to be more responsive to the needs of students, businesses, and industries. All documentation for these proposals are in your materials. And at this time, Dr. Tashaka Hollins will provide a brief highlight of these programs for your approval.
Good afternoon. Are we still morning or have we made it to the afternoon? Just crossed it. All right. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, and all those that serve the board. As Dr. Reese has stated, this board action is required as a part of our policy as well as our accrediting body. The board's support of academic program development and expansion supports open access, completion, and community and workforce development themes of the TBR strategic plan. This work aligns to the Drive to 55 goals and assists us in fulfilling our mission of student success and workforce development. The Office of Academic Affairs is pleased to support TCAT's efforts to deliver quality instruction to individuals seeking career advancement as well as career entry in some of the state's most in-demand and high-wage occupations. Before you today is a culmination of programs in 3 in-demand and high-wage areas. Those include advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and logistics. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Earlier this year, TBR was contacted by one of the largest healthcare systems in the United States. The company was interested in establishing the first medical assisting to practical nursing bridge in Tennessee, and knew TBR and our colleges would be excellent partners in this work. I immediately formed a faculty expert task force to start exploring the possibilities. I am pleased to share that TCAT Jackson will be one of the first TCATs to offer the Certified Medical Assistant to Practical Nursing Bridge program starting in the fall of 2023. Other TCATs will soon submit proposals to adopt this program in the future. TCAT Jackson currently offers 100 dual enrollment students. They have 100 dual enrollment students in the pipeline to transition to as adults into PCTMA, which is Practical Patient Care Technology Medical Assisting, at their Lexington campus. And they're looking to fill the demand. So that is why you have before you a proposal to replicate that program at their Lexington campus. TCAT Knoxville is proposing to increase the pipeline of highly skilled machinists and welders in the East Tennessee region. Before you are 2 proposals to relocate and duplicate programs at the Ruth and Steve West Workforce Center. TCAT McMinnville has partnered with Unity Hospital and will deliver practical nursing programs at the local hospital to broaden their outreach to potential nursing students and fill the demand for nursing staff. TCAT Northwest is proposing a new farming operations program. This agriculture industry has projected 8% growth from 2020 to 2030 for this particular occupation. TCAT Oneida is proposing to implement an evening and weekend truck driving program to meet their regional workforce needs for commercial truck drivers and lineman workers. The Office of Academic Affairs received 17 program modifications that were approved by the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. As you can see, these proposed actions allow the TCATs to become more responsive to workforce needs by aligning education with careers. The Office of Academic Affairs respectfully request the board approval, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Dr. Hollins? Hearing none, may I make a proposal that since this is a routine, non-controversial item, that we once again adopt these proposed program terminations, modifications, and new technical program implementations by unanimous consent. I see head nods. Thank you very much. With no objections then, these are adopted by unanimous consent. Thanks for a great job, and
Thank you.
all of our colleges for continuing to do good things.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. It's good to be nimble. We have 4 exciting and important items remaining. And Chancellor, I'm going to come to you on all 4 of these.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The first on the agenda is I am recommending the naming of, from Dyersburg State Community College, the Campus Activities Building, the Dr. Carl Christian Anderson Hall. A naming committee was appointed and the committee unanimously approved this recommendation. In 1981, Dr. Anderson was selected as president of Dyersburg State Community College, and he served as their president until 1984. He was an active member of the Dyersburg community and oversaw the institution during a time of historic growth. Dr. Anderson started a program that is still popular at Dyersburg State College many years after its creation, College for Kids. It is a testament to his vision that he created a program for the community that is still popular approximately 40 years after its inception and still serves as a marketing and recruiting tool for the college. Dr. Anderson adapted new classroom technologies to aid in classroom instruction and transfer options which expanded considerably while he was serving as president. Even though his tenure was short, just over 3 years, he left an indelible legacy at the institution filled with accomplishment and character. It is my pleasure to bring this recommendation to the board for consideration, and I would like to call on Dr. Cook for any further comments.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Tidings. And again, thank you very much to Vice Chair Reynolds and the board. This request to honor Dr. Anderson is an opportunity for us to honor our history while also recognizing that we continue to move forward. The recommendation originated with the President's Cabinet and was unanimously supported and approved by our Cabinet and our naming committee. That naming committee was a broad committee including staff, current and retired faculty, and an alumnus. He had 28 years in education across the country and across the world, and served over 3 years as our college's second president from 1981 to 1984. It was an important and transformative period, recognized, as Dr. Tidings mentioned, by the historic and significant enrollment growth. Dr. Buck Tarpley was a well-respected 30-plus year employee of Dyersburg State Community College and retired as our vice president for institutional advancement. Dr. Tarpley talked at length with me about how important Dr. Anderson's tenure was for the college at this moment in time, and the significance of these 3 years as the college transitioned from its founding period to its modern period. Dr. Anderson became president at a time when people believed the culture had grown stagnant, and Dr. Tarpley has noted the college was not about him. It was about all the college community working together to achieve excellence. He showed the campus that Dyersburg State could accomplish great things, and DSCC has done just that. The family that has contributed the most money to the college throughout its 50-plus year history referred to Dr. Anderson as a breath of fresh air. Dr. Dave Strong, one of the most well-respected faculty emeritus at Dyersburg State Community College, has shared with me how Dr. Anderson's example influenced and shaped his own career, and without Dr. Anderson's influence, would not have enjoyed the long and successful career that he did. For these reasons, we are asking your approval to name the Campus Activities Building in honor of Dr. Anderson. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Chancellor?
Madam Chair, I ask for your recommendation. We're
All
going
right.
to take all these together.
Should we do these separately?
Whatever the chair
Oh,
prefers, I
great.
think would be
Let's
fine.
let's do the 2 together then. That's terrific. All right. Thank you, Dr. Cook, for an excellent recommendation. Chancellor, let's come back to you.
Yes, our next recommendation is Chattanooga State Community College is recommending naming the Chattanooga State Center for Engineering, Technology, Arts, and Sciences building the Gerald McCormick Center for Engineering, Technology, Arts, and Science. A naming committee was appointed, and the committee unanimously approved this recommendation. Gerald McCormick is a former Tennessee House of Representatives member. He was first elected to the chamber in 2004 and retired in 2018, shortly after the birth of a beautiful granddaughter, from the Tennessee General Assembly, where he served as a House member for District 26. Representative McCormick served in several leadership positions, including his role as House Majority Leader and as chairman of the Budget Subcommittee of House Finance, Ways and Means. He carried most of Governor Bill Haslam's legislation in the House and is particularly proud of passing the Tennessee Promise, which provides every Tennessean high school graduate the opportunity to attain a 2-year degree or certificate free of tuition and fees. During Representative McCormick's time in the legislature, District 26 had more than $1.5 billion in new capital investments, supporting the creation of over 10,000 new jobs, including Volkswagen and Amazon. And also during this time, Chattanooga State was awarded $12 million to purchase and renovate the largest educational workforce training building on main campus, currently known as the Center for Engineering, Technology, Arts, and Sciences. In recognition of Gerald McCormick's long-standing leadership impacting higher education across the state, the historical significance of his impact on championing state funds for Chattanooga State, and notable recognitions as a public servant for the Tennessee General Assembly, it is my pleasure to bring this recommendation to the board for consideration. And Madam Chair, I believe we have Tammy Swenson, Vice President, on the line to offer a few words. Tammy,
Well,
are
thank
you
you.
with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Thank you, Chancellor Tidings, Vice Chair Reynolds, and members of the board for allowing me to represent Chattanooga State today. It's certainly a good day for me to do that. Gerald McCormick has served our country and the citizens of Tennessee with distinction, as was outlined in Dr. Ashford's recommendation to rename the Center of Engineering, Technology, Arts, and Science to the Gerald McCormick Center of Technology, Arts, and Science. Representative McCormick, as Dr. Tidings just said, was instrumental in securing the state funds to purchase and renovate the building, and we were otherwise landlocked had we not had the opportunity to purchase the former Olin Mills processing plant to expand our engineering programs. That expansion allowed us to develop a trained workforce ready to go for Walker and Volkswagen when they opened their businesses in our region. Mr. McCormick is a great friend and advisor to our college and a friend to anyone that I have met in the state of Tennessee. He's just one of those people that becomes friends immediately when meeting him. What the report doesn't say is the heart that he has for helping others in need. And for all of those reasons, we ask for your approval today to add his name to the building on our campus. Thank you.
We have the recommendation from the Chancellor and those excellent words from Tammy. Tammy, we haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to hear your voice.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions?
Oh, you go.
Well, I mean, I just want to speak
Yes.
to a lion in my hometown and our community and the state of Tennessee, and be a fitting honor for Gerald McCormick that this building be named after him, and his contributions to the system and our state are significant. He's a wonderful guy and an Army veteran on a day where we've recognized other veterans who served our state well, and so I would, I'm frequently in this building, as are a whole lot of members of the kind of greater Chattanooga area, and would be very pleased to see this happen.
Thank you. Beautifully said. A lion indeed. So, Regent Varlin, did you want to say something, or the floor is open for a motion?
I want to make a motion for this.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Oh, thank you, Regent Gill. And
I'll third, because
There
we
you
have
go.
our Chattanooga State Foundation board meetings in this building now, and it is as Regent Wamp was saying, it's a great building. It's a great, I was going to say addition, but a renovation to the campus, and just a very dynamic building. You know, you read all the different programs that go on in there, the STEM school. for Hamilton County. And so great building and just a wonderful person in Gerald McCormick. So happy to third that one.
Yes, ma'am.
I will add one thing. I just happen to know his wife. She's pretty amazing too.
Well said by all of you. Thank you. Well, this is a day when we have talked about our history, and we have an opportunity to honor those who have made contributions to this system, and both Dr. Anderson and our friend Gerald McCormick. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please, sir.
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Gill. Aye. Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Regent Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Makes it unanimous, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, sir. Well, we have honored our history. Let's talk about the future.
Let's talk about the future. It is time now for me to announce and ask for your approval of our final candidates for 2 of our president's positions. As you know, Stuart Smith announced his intent to retire in January, and since that time, we have been actively searching for our new president at TCAT Athens. A search advisory committee was formed, and Regent Varlin graciously agreed to serve as chair of the committee, with Regents White and Shelton also serving as committee members, as well as representatives of the college's faculty, staff, students, and alumni. Local civic leaders and industry leaders also were on the committee. The committee did an excellent job narrowing the candidate pool down to our top 2 candidates, and I would like to thank each member of the committee for their commitment and support. After careful review of the applicants, interviews, and input from Search Advisory Committee, Madam Chair, I am pleased to recommend to you Mrs. Susan Hatto as the next president of TCAT Athens. Ms. Hatto currently serves as Dean for Industrial Education and Workforce Training at Montcalm Community College in Sidney, Michigan. She began her career at Montcalm Community College in 2002 as a youth offender program supervisor and has held multiple leadership positions at the college in the areas of workforce development, instructional services, continuing education, and community outreach. Madam Chair, members of the board, this is my recommendation to you today.
Regent Varlin, you were kind, as Chancellor said, to chair the search committee. Any comments?
We had a great search committee. They were so dedicated and really did their due diligence and dug in and asked great questions. You know, we had an internal and an external candidate, and it's always a hard decision with that. The internal candidate is a wonderful person, wonderful employee, is just given so much to the TCAT, and Susan is going to be a remarkable leader. We are so glad to have her. I can't wait for y'all to meet her, and that's going to be such a positive opportunity going forward. I do want to thank Regent Tom White. I was not able to be in person at the actual interviews on campus because I had the flu forever. He conducted those in my absence and did a wonderful job, and I appreciate him doing that. So I can't take. That's right. We're trying to get him closer and closer to Knoxville. So, but this is just going to be a great opportunity in Athens, which is such a growing community. So, just thank you so much, and thank you for the pleasure of being able to serve in that position.
Are you supporting the Chancellor's recommendation?
Absolutely.
In the form of a motion?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I make a
Thank
motion.
you. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Regent White. Any further comments? Hearing none. Brian, I'm coming back to you, I think.
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Gill. Aye. Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Susan Hatto, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Welcome to Tennessee. I think you've been eyeing us for some time, so we're glad this is happening.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Well, talk to us. Tell us a little bit.
Sure. So I am in Michigan, so it's much warmer there than it is here. We're going to get snow tomorrow again, so yay. I just want to thank everybody. The board, thank you so much. Chancellor Tidings, my search committee, everybody's been so awesome. So I want to thank everybody. And really, I'm honored and blessed to be able to move to Tennessee. I'm super excited. I love the town of Athens. I felt very comfortable at the school. So I am super excited to be the next president at TCAT Athens.
We share your super excitement. So, and look forward to you getting here. In the meantime, have a good holiday season.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chancellor, back to you.
One more. As you are all aware, President Cheryl Perrier recently retired, and we have also been actively searching for our new president at TCAT Murfreesboro. The search advisory committee was formed, and Vice Chair Reynolds graciously agreed to serve as chair of this committee, along with Regent Apple, Green, and Regent Shelton, who did double duty for us, so thank you so much. Also, again, we had faculty, staff, students, and alumni, local civic, and industry leaders. Committee again did an exceptional job of narrowing down the candidate pool to the top 2 candidates, and I would like to thank each of the members of this committee for the great job that they did. After careful review of the applicants, interviews, and input from the Search Advisory Committee, Madam Chair, I am very pleased to recommend to you Mr. Patrick Wade as the next president of TCAT Murfreesboro. Mr. Wade currently serves as vice president at TCAT Knoxville. He began his career with TCAT Knoxville in 2012 as a workforce development consultant. He was promoted to a high school counselor recruiter for the college and has also served as an assistant director. He earned a Master of Science in Management and Leadership from Western Governors University and a Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance at Tennessee Technology University. Madam Chair, board members, I highly recommend Mr. Patrick Wade for this new position.
That was a nice round of applause from your colleagues, Patrick. Why don't you make your way to the podium while we take care of some important business here? I told you this morning it might be hard to get this over the finish line. As Chancellor mentioned, I did have the pleasure to chair this search, and what an incredible group of folks we have, and the care for Murfreesboro and that community and their interest in the TCAT is just extraordinary. Regent Green, just as Regent Varlin mentioned, while I did not have the flu, I was not able to be on campus that day, and you were nice to step in. Reflect on that day in the interviews, please.
Absolutely. I think everyone just enjoyed the interest in continuing the torch that Carol has done for so many years to keep Murfreesboro going, and obviously that's rooted with TCAT Murfreesboro. So we are ecstatic that Patrick is going to fill that role and keep us going. And I think everyone around the table was just enjoyed the process. So thank you.
Thank you. Are you supporting the Chancellor's
I'm
recommendation
ecstatic
with emotion?
We are going to be able to support the recommendation. Absolutely.
Regent Apple, would you like to offer a second?
I will gladly offer a second.
Thank you, and thanks for helping us out as well. Regent Shelton, a third. Oh, excellent. Any further discussion on the nomination of, yes, ma'am.
I've known Patrick since I came on the Board of Regents, and I just want to wish you the very best. He's the happiest person probably I've ever met. Students love him. Wish you the very best. I know you're going home, but we'll sure miss you in Knoxville, and thank you for your service to Knoxville.
So, well, with that, Brian, would you call the roll?
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Gill. Aye. Regent Green.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Long.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shelton.
An ecstatic aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
And Regent White.
Yes, thank you.
That makes it unanimous.
Thank you. Patrick Wade, President of the TCAT Murfreesboro, step forward.
Thank you, Regent Reynolds. I'm nervous. I'll just be honest. I'm nervous. Thank you so much. But I'm so excited. Chancellor Tidings, thank you, and the board. Thank you guys so much for your trust and this wonderful opportunity to join such dynamic leaders across our state and also come back home to Murfreesboro. I'm super excited about that. I have to say that I am thankful for my wife and my family, who are my biggest cheerleaders in all of this. And I'm also thankful for all of the great times, all of the challenging times that have made me who I am. So I'm ready to jump in feet first, not head first, feet first, and get things going in Murfreesboro. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Well done. Once again, we are all super excited, so that's great. Chancellor?
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes. Yes, John?
I've been kind of quiet today, but I would just like to say I've had an opportunity to work with Patrick on several occasions, and he is going to be a phenomenal president in Murfreesboro. He feels some heavy shoes to fill, but I couldn't have recommended a higher person myself. And they better be ready because he will hit the ground running, and it's going to be phenomenal there.
You are so right. Thank you, Regent Lee. We miss you today, but thank you for chiming in. So, Dr. Fox, before I move to the Chancellor, anything back on turnover rate? If not, yes.
10%. 10%, yeah, and we'll have an updated number for 21-22 in February.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Chancellor, any further announcements?
Just a few.
Remember, you're the last thing
I'm
between
in. I'm going to talk fast. The next meeting is Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at the System Office. This meeting will be held following the SOAR Awards, March 28th through the 29th at the Sheraton Grand in downtown Nashville. I have here a reminder from Brian to complete your 2023 annual disclosure form. It is due January 31st. Kate Walker shared the form with you all via DocuSign on Thursday, November 17th. You'll receive periodic reminders if you don't get it in. So Brian is detailed here. Get your forms in. Thank you again to all of those who made this meeting possible for filling in for our wonderful Mariah and new baby Grace. No further announcements, and I want to just wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Exactly. Anything else from the board?
What was the date? The spring board meeting,
March 30th is the actual board meeting. 28th through 29 is SOAR.
Anything else to come before the board? Well, remember from our opening presentation, I love that notion of the I can letters. So we walked out of here with I can, and we are indeed greater together. To the board members, lunch is available for you upstairs, and I'm sure somebody will be in the lobby to help us get up to room 201, 202, I believe it is. And as Chancellor said, have a safe and happy holiday, and we look forward to seeing you in 2023. Take care, everybody. Thank you all.